Alrighty, let's get to it. Man, it has been a long day, and I mean a long day. I have been up most of the night, unfortunately. Taking care of some sick kittens, unfortunately, which did have a visit to the vet today. Which is never fun. I hate to say it, but they're fine, which is good. They just have had a bit of a stomach bug, apparently, that the vet gave us some medication for. But I have been up most of the night making sure that they're fine, that they're being fed, that they can go to the bathroom just okay, and I gotta tell you, I am exhausted. Truly, I am tired. We'll turn that down just a little bit. There we go. Mom!
Welcome, Mother. Good to see you. Alright. You will be pleased to know Blinky is doing just fine. What's going on, Wilson? How's it going, bud? Yeah. Good news. Kittens are doing just fine.
They're just sleeping right now, which is good. I am exhausted, though. I'm fighting to stay awake, and it is not fun, I assure you. Oh, they will be 2 weeks old. That's lovely. I lost track of time, if I'm being honest with you. I couldn't even remember how. All I told the nurse is that they're like a little over a week old. I couldn't remember how many days it's been, unfortunately.
But they're getting there. They are offended by the medicine they have to take, though. Well, I promise you, honey, they will be here when you get home. Right now, they are sleeping. They will be fed in about 2 hours.
A little under 2 hours. Again.
They have an appetite, though. I don't know if it's because they didn't get fed while they were at the at the vet's or not. But they were ravenously hungry. That is the most I've seen Blinky eat in a hot minute. Wilson, this is my mother and my wife, so feel free to say hi. I am still working on cleaning up the parts for my Porphyrion. I am most of the way done now with the big parts. I just got to keep cleaning them up. Past 2 weeks is great. You're past most of the sickness worries with the kittens. Yes, Stolas. Thank you. By the way, thank you for hopping in. Sorry about yesterday, but cutting it a little short and just with the kittens and trying to be there to help my wife, and my dad was wanting to do some stuff on Space Marine. I was like, I gotta hop off real quick. So, which part of the Porphy am I building today? You know what? That is a wonderful question. Let's find out together, shall we? Right now, I'm still trimming up the pieces. The good news is most of the big pieces are done now, which is great. All I have left on the Porphyrion's parts are these two shoulder mounts that need to be cut off their gates, the carapace, which still needs to be cut off its gate, and then all these small parts. And these small parts go really fast. I can knock these out really, really quickly. It's the big stuff that's the biggest problem. So right now I'm still cleaning up most of the pieces. They're all washed. Most of the gates are really small. There's just these large nubs here and there. Super, super easy. And then after that, I have nothing to do but to build. So I've got the brass rods I got to grab from the craft room to use to reinforce parts of the model. But all the big stuff's pretty much done except for these pieces right here. So, but you said which part? Let's find out together, shall we? Let's see. I've got, this looks like gun mount, and I'm pretty sure I'm right. Let's find out together. Yep. It's a gun mount for one of the arms. This one looks to be the left arm. Yes, this is the left arm piece. Which is great. Cursed Lego pull? No kidding. You know, one of my bigger builds I've done was my Knight Acheron that I built. It took me... it's really cool, Wilson. It's one of my favorite... It's my number one favorite model that Games Workshop has ever made, is the Porphyrion. Couldn't tell you why, but it is my number one favorite model, and now I'm going to be building it together thanks to the wondrous generosity of my wife and my parents, who bought this for me as a surprise gift / birthday gift / thank you gift. And I am super excited to get it done. So, just gotta cut through this resin. And resin's a weird material to work with compared to the plastic. It's tougher, and at the same time more fragile. It snaps and breaks a lot more than the plastic ever does, but it's also harder to get through, so you have to be real careful how much force you're putting on it. Louder than the voice? Really? Okay, well, let me tone it down. I apologize. Oh, that's why. My desktop audio has been changed. They updated OBS. That's my problem. They updated OBS yesterday, and I haven't gotten used to the update just yet. So let me just readjust the microphone here. Is that better? I turned down OBS's desktop volume. So, does anyone do Mechanicus litanies while they build machine models? Because that would be funny. You know what? Funny that you mentioned that. One of my favorite things to listen to while I'm doing stuff. You know what? We're gonna go ahead and pull it up now. There it is. Sorry. Long, awkward pause here. Is this song from the Mechanicus video game. There you are. Sorry, I call everyone treacle. No worries. No worries at all. Yeah, I don't normally update OBS when it pops up, but it said I couldn't do anything with OBS until I updated it. I guess I put it off for so long. And it just messed with my whole volume balancing. I've had to kind of work at it. On my end, it sounds fine. And that's the weird part, is I have to rely on other people telling me that the volume balancing is off. So I'm kind of like stuck until someone says something, which is awful. Much better. The only litany I do is hamburger, cheeseburger, Big Mac, Whopper. Yeah, it's funny. Also true. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really close. All the small parts go really fast. It's these bigger parts that I worry about because they take so much time to make right. And I've had to do some surgery to a couple of pieces already. Because unlike the plastic that Games Workshop makes, I love the Children of the Omnisci. Well, first off, hi Final. How you doing, bud? Glad to see you. You have incredibly tired autistic wizard. I thought it was too loud too, but I'm worried I'll sound like a complainer. Honestly, Stolas, I'd rather you tell me and I adjust it and everyone else says no, he's wrong than not, because I might be blowing some people's eardrums out. So yeah, don't worry about ever like coming across as a complainer at all. I would rather be told that I'm being too loud or my voice is too quiet, the music's too loud, than anything else. Especially today. I am very tired. So if anyone saw the description, we have sick kittens, unfortunately. Looks like they have a little bit of a stomach bug. So I ended up taking them to the vet this morning. I was up with them most of the night to feed them, and they did not want to... Well, that's a shame. They did not want to eat properly. I had to fight with them quite a bit, and they've been making a lot of messes in their playpen. Me too, especially since I was giving him crap for his voice volume. You know what? But I'd rather be... No one told me, Final, before that. No one ever told me I was too quiet until you said something.
And because on my end, I sound like I'm blowing out eardrums. You quit watching because it was too loud too? Well, son of a... I need people to tell me this stuff. Just tell me. It's okay. Okay. Stomach bug is minor. It's wild how easy kittens can just not live. Yes, which is what we were worried about for the most part. We were just very concerned that this, because we told them about the symptoms, and the vet was like, this could be nothing, but we'd like to see them today because it could spiral. Could tell them it's their problem. It's you. You're not wrong. Exactly. I need to know if the balancing on this volume is off, because OBS updated yesterday, so I've been playing around with this whole thing. So I just thought it was okay because on my end it sounds fine, but on my end I sounded like I was blowing out my own eardrums, and everyone's like, "You're really quiet." So I just need people to tell me. Here we go. Keeping kittens alive is so stressful. You're not wrong, babe. It's fun. It's fun. I have fun. The good news is they have decided that they feel fine enough to eat and be active. And the way I feed them, I like kind of, I don't know. No, I don't wrap my legs, but like I make a circle with my legs and whatnot and keep them in the middle. Can we nominate you as our union rep? Baby rabbits are probably the worst of it. They'll pass if the temp is off or they get stressed. Man, that is awful. That sounds stressful. We've been walking on eggshells for the past 12 days. Getting the first week felt like a real milestone. You're not wrong. Now they got their eyes open and they're pretty active now. Anyway, so as I was saying, so I feed them and I'll make like a playpen with my legs as I'm sitting there feeding one and let the other walk around a little bit. You know, because sometimes they don't want to finish their bottle. Sometimes they want to sit there and just wait and then go back to it. And the Dark Lady Ink Spill, the girl cat that my wife and I are planning on keeping, has decided that the crook on the inside of my knee is where she needs to be at all times. It's a milestone. You guys are heroes. That's a great honor, and I guess I'm willing to accept. All right, sweetheart. We're going to come up with a title for a role in the Discord server. You are officially the community union rep. I also nominate Final Gaming as the community treasurer. And by that, I mean debt keeper. Someone to keep track of my debt for this channel. It's a joke. It's a joke, babe. I'm not going to spend any more money until you say so. It's okay. See, this is annoying. See, right? The divot on this one is so much worse than this one, and it's just the nature of the resin, I think. I can't really do anything to stop that. Anyway, so now we've got them both. They're doing okay. They've got medication that they don't like. Inky, our cat, has decided that medicine is an affront to her and an absolute insult to her honor, and she does not like to take it. She has no choice in the matter. I need her to stop going inside of her playpen whenever she wants. Oh, geez, I can't count that high. It's okay. I have to use all my fingers and toes. Shoot, I still have done the Discord. I'll get to it. Yeah, you have to get in the Discord, Mo. You have to join the Wizard's Tower and see my wife's Discord server picture that she has, which is cute. She's offended by literally anything. Yeah, she got offended earlier. She heard my voice when I got there to pick him up, and she was like trying to crawl through the screen and was mad that she couldn't get to me. And the nurse was like, "Oh, don't worry, you'll get home soon. It'll be fine." She was like really trying to talk her down, and she was just arguing with the nurse. Very opinionated, our little Inky. She's pretty sure she knows what she's supposed to have and what she's not. And if you argue with her, she will argue back. Speaking of the Discord, is the announcement channel private? I accidentally swiped something away from the other day, so I missed the announcement. It is private. I made so that way I can just post, you know, whether or not a big thing is happening with the community or whatnot, and I can. I've made it private so only I can post in it. That way, no one's spamming it or anything, which is good. I can tell you what's in it. I think it was. Oh, yeah, let me pull it up real quick. Sorry, I'm really tired. I don't know if I mentioned that. So I had I'm back home, and then the OBS is updating message from yesterday is pretty much all that's in there. I always feel like our ability to form strong bonds with animals outside our species is such a cool part of being human. You're not wrong. I love it. I'm much more of a dog person than a cat person. My wife will attest to this fact, but I love animals. I love almost all animals. I even like our chinchillas, despite the hay that's strung about the house. I could change it per server, so you probably haven't seen mine in the Warhammer Discord. True. I'm glad Blinky's second eye finally opened. I was worried we were going to have to change his name to Winky. I could see that. That'd be funny. There is a greater than 0% chance you may have to watch me feed kittens today on stream. So hopefully my wife is not watching when that happens. I will stress her I'll stress her out to no end. You have to be more careful. You know what? Yeah, it's all right. Final. It's okay. The announcement thing is only there for basically updating on stream stuff. Blinky would still have worked in an ironic way. It's true. It's true. We still need to find Pinky and Clyde. It was 4 kitten litter, and all the names of the cats ended up being the name of the ghosts from Ms. Pac-Man. So we've got Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde. Yeah, that hurt. Just pinched myself with my own nippers. I'm a smart man. Get off before that summer. Alec, what's going on, man? Good to see you. I say that in like a very neutral term, Alec, FYI. The amount of times I've dude or broed my wife, and she gets annoyed by that too, so. These tiny gates right here are just a pain in the rear. There we go. Or sue, depending, that's fair. I was able to kill screen Ms. Pac-Man in high school on the table anyway. That's fair. Have I tried Blackout yet? So I have not played it yet. I have models. They are coming. We've ordered them on Friday the 27th, so they're going to take about 8 to 10 days to get here. I have the 2-player starter set, and I have a Strike Force expansion for Task Force Aboon, which is the faction I've decided I like. And I will be painting those on stream, so when they get here, well, I'll get them primed using my airbrush, and then I'm going to start painting. And I got to come up with a paint scheme. I'm thinking I'm going to go for like Martian red camo if I can on my Task Force Boon models, which would be a lot of fun. And then I'm gonna go out to Josh, and Josh and I are gonna play Blackout together on the 2-player thing, and we're going to record it, and I will upload it to my channel. So I will be learning how to play Blackout, and probably looking like an absolute idiot while doing so. But I'm very excited. It looks like a lot of fun, and as I've said before, the people that make it, Enemy Spotted Studios, they're a great company. They work with a charity to help prevent veteran suicide. I can't stress that enough. Like, if you're on the fence about getting into a new tabletop war game, one, it's really cheap, especially compared to Warhammer. It's like $60 for an entire force, and that's all you need to play is that one pack. If you want to get another one, they have Strike Force expansions for a few of them that have different models that are like $50. Super cheap. It's all you need to get into it, and a percentage of every single sale gets donated by the company to a charity to help prevent veteran suicide. So it's a company made by veterans for veterans to support veterans who are struggling and need a helping hand, which I can't stress enough is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Pac-Man was way more susceptible to pattern playing than Miss Pac-Man. That is correct. You helped a friend get a new gazebo up today. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I hope they enjoy their gazebo. Which is also just a really fun word to say. I don't know if anyone out there needs to know, but like, just say the word gazebo, and sometimes life gets a lot better. Stola says hi, Space Mom. All right. And here I have the cod piece to my knight. Exciting stuff. Okay, let's get this cut here. Children of the Omnissiah is such a good song. Mechanicus in general has some really good soundtracks. How Amish of you. That's funny. Alright, let's get this here. Gazebo's a fun word. Nice, I feel like you're always building these big things, and I'm like, I glued some plastic with my fingers or my fingers today. You know, Final, if you ever need to feel better about gluing your fingers together, or various parts of you, you could always go back to the stream where I was building a cork rock and glued my hand to my hand to the base, and then my other hand to the table, all at the same time. Who wins, Empire of Man or Galactic Empire? Well, that depends. Are we talking like lore battle-wise, or are we talking like model-wise? Because I got to be honest with you, lore-wise, there's no contest. Galactic Empire wins, hands down, every time. But if we're talking, you know, lore-wise or model-wise, I really like the Empire of Man models. I don't know about you. I'm also just a medieval history nerd, and just a nerd in general. So I have a huge fondness for the Empire of Man. They're the models that got me into Warhammer to begin with, believe it or not. So I kind of want to say Empire of Man, but can't go wrong. The Imperium is dope. They got a lot of great stuff. So unless you mean the Empire, like the Galactic Empire, like Stormtroopers and Star Wars, then Empire of Man all day long. But at least it wasn't your eyebrows. You know, not this time. I've only glued my fingers to my eyebrows once in my life, and I don't need to do that again. There's a third grade school picture of me with the front half of one eyebrow, the back half of another eyebrow, so between the two of them I had one full eyebrow. And never shall that picture see the light of day. But my wife has the picture of me in 4th grade. The gazebo or that thing I was building a few days ago aren't the biggest things I've helped build. Fair enough. Miri, what's going on? Good to see you, brother. I bet Star Wars law. I'm a basic nerd. Listen, ain't nothing wrong with Star Wars. I mean, unless you're a fan of Disney Star Wars, in which case you have my condolences. There are support groups that can help you. But I'll say this. The Empire of Man for me wins out on that one. I just love the Empire of Man. I will admit, though, the drip on the Galactic Empire is strong. But the problem is you didn't ask the correct question, and that is Galactic, like the Empire of Man or the Galactic Republic with the clone troopers. Now you're making me like really, really guess there. I probably still lean Empire of Man, but I do love me some Galactic Republic. So, take that what you will. Is there something very satisfying about working with your hands and seeing the end result? There is very much so. I'm a bring out the trash to process the eyebrow glowing. So, okay. All right. Improbably Palpatine percent. It's funny. Okay, so the eyebrow story. Well, Miri, since my mother brought it up and now it's out there in the ether, I was young. This would have been like circa 2002, 2003. So it would have been 3rd grade for me. I had a stuffed animal, right? So I had this like cheap Dollar Tree, and I mean that like legitimately, it came from the Dollar Tree, white stuffed monkey that my great-grandmother had bought for me. And I was a very, very creative kid, and I named him Snowy. And he was falling apart. And, of course, what does every child do when things are breaking and falling apart? You either grab tape or you grab glue. And I figured glue was going to work because tape wouldn't hold up very well. So, you know, we had a bottle of super glue, and I was trying to glue fabric together with super glue, which obviously did not work very well. And I didn't realize it at the time. As I was gluing it, I had some super glue on my fingers. And I remember vividly, I was watching Powerpuff Girls. Don't judge me. It was a really good cartoon. I was watching Powerpuff Girls. I even remember the episode in particular, which is wild to think about. If you're curious, it's the episode where the girls have that like what if scenario where they see future versions of themselves and they're like teenagers in the mall and whatnot, and they're talking to boys and stuff. It doesn't matter. What does matter is that's the episode that was playing, and I got real frustrated, and I had glue on my fingertips, on my index fingers. And I was young. I'd cradle my head with my eyebrows and my cheekbones. I'd eyebrows on my index fingers, my cheekbones on my thumbs. I'd cradle my head and I'd think and I'd process what I was doing, which is apparently something that runs in the family because my mom knew exactly what would happen. And so I go to the living room, and of course my fingers are stuck to my eyebrows. So I've got my fingers on my eyebrows as I go into the living room, and I look at my dad, and my dad's sitting on, at the time it was this, I think it was the white leather couch in the living room at the time. And I have my fingers on my eyebrows, and I look at my dad, and he looks at me, and I sit there with my fingers up on my face, holding my eyebrows, and he looks at me and goes, "Son, everything okay?" And I go, "I'm stuck." And he goes, "What do you mean you're stuck?" And I go, "I'm stuck." And I try to pull my fingers away, and of course my whole forehead comes with my hands. He stops, and he doesn't say anything. We had a glass sliding door, so he reaches over, slides open the door, and yells out to the backyard, goes, "Honey, come here." So he's like, I could tell he's trying to fight laughter. Brings my mother into the living room, and she shuts the door. She's like, "What's going on?" And he looks at me, and he goes, "Shut him up." So I look at my mother, and I go, "I'm stuck." And she goes, "What do you mean you're stuck?" And I go pull my fingers away, and my whole forehead comes with. And I go, "I'm stuck." And she starts laughing, and my dad busts out laughing, and they're cry laughing the entire time. And I call my sister in there to see what's going on, and she's like 2 years younger than me. So I show her as they're both laughing. So with them, Rachel starts laughing because she sees my fingers are glued to my forehead, and I'm like embarrassed and I'm trying not to cry, and my dad finally stops laughing long enough to have a plan, right? He's going to count to 3, and I'm going to rip the fingers off my face to get a just like full on rip as hard as I possibly can. So he starts counting down from 3, and I'm like, no, I really don't want to do this. And I'm like, of course, I'm a kid. I'm like practically crying. I'm like, I really don't want to do this. It's going to hurt. Oh my God. And so he's like, okay, like count of 1. I'm like, no, Dad, no, I don't want to do this. 2, please, Dad, don't do. And on 3, I rip without even thinking. I just rip my fingers off. And I kid you not, the front half of my right eyebrow, or my left eyebrow, gone. The back half of my right eyebrow, gone. So I have like the front of one, the back of the other. And they had school pictures like a week after this happened. So I've got like thick, like the scab of super glue, a little bit of skin, and all of the eyebrow hair stuck to my fingers. And so I had one full eyebrow between the two of them, and then literally like in the next week I had school pictures. So there's some photographic evidence out there with only one eyebrow, and I promise you, they've kind of fixed now, but they never grew back right while I was in elementary school. They were like still a little wonky, and you can kind of see there's a bald spot permanently in the front half of my eyebrow if you look close enough. And I don't know if my wife has ever looked close enough to see it, but it's there. It's there. I have a bald spot in my eyebrow because of that. So for years, my dad would call me over as a joke to make fun of me, and he would just call me into a room wherever I was and then look at me and then immediately put his fingers on his eyebrows. And then I'd just turn around and walk away and be like, "Ugh, leave me alone, Dad." And that was my childhood. Oddly enough, however, that was the day we discovered that glue and not being able to use it is hereditary, because my mother managed to just say the bald spot is from a scar from a bar fight. I'm in. That sounds fantastic. Bear in mind, he has a mother that can sew, and he didn't ask. I did not ask. That is true. I just remember the time when my uncle shaved like half of one of my brother's eyebrows off. I will definitely be noticing that now. Thank you, honey. What's funny about it is we learned that day that not being able to use glue is hereditary, because my mother had I don't know what the actual term is. We've always just called it dippy bird. It's one of those glass birds that occasionally just dips his beak down into a glass of water and then comes back up, right? Because it's got his body's basically a giant mercury thermometer with a metal tip on one end that cools down, and as the base stays warm and the water evaporates off the beak, it cools. And good, thank God. The photographic evidence of my one eyebrow adventure was lost in the Great Flood of 2010, where the house flooded. Good. No one needs to see those pictures. So my mom had my grandparents bought this for her when she was 2-3 years old, I think, and it always comes out around her birthday, and we keep it up through Christmas and New Year's. So it stays out, and we love Dippy Bird, and she got him from my grandparents back. This was, we still have the old kitchen with the wooden table and the bench that had the corner in it. I remember that now. Basically, he leaves my mom in there, and she's trying to, I think it was super glue, if I remember correctly. It's either that or hot glue, but I'm pretty sure it was super glue. She's trying to glue googly eyes back on his head and feathers back on his butt, and my dad swears up and down he left her alone for 5-10 minutes tops. And she calls him in there, and she's glued her elbow to the table, her hand to Dippy Bird, and feathers all over the other hand, if I remember correctly. And she just looks at it and goes, help, because she's glued one hand to that. Oh, her other hand had feathers on it, and it was glued to her pants, on her thigh, and she called him in there to help because she was stuck. So from then on, the only people allowed to use super glue in the house as a rule was my dad and my sister. So no more super glue for me or my mother, which I demonstrated is still very much alive on stream when I built that rock, which I hold true is not my fault, because I had the really thin super glue. Tried hot glue and burned your fingers, so you switched to super glue. Yes, I swapped to thin super glue. I should have just stuck with the thick stuff, but I still can't use super glue properly. I have glued myself to many things live on stream. That evidence is never going away. It's staying on the internet for all time. Nor will I run from it. I will proudly proclaim I am super glue retarded. So this is an odd angle here. I'm gonna have to figure out how to do this. Let's chop it off here. There we go. Now we should be able to do here. Anyway, so that's my family saga with glue. I'm not that good at using super glue either. Thank you, Alec. My wife gave me crap for that. Surprisingly, I've never seen her use super glue. So, we'll see. We'll see. It's okay. Can't be any worse than the time a window stole my pants. Which, that may not be an entirely appropriate story to tell on YouTube, but we'll get a little further in the stream and I may tell that story, because that is a true story that happened. A window stole my blue jeans that I was wearing. There's a reason for that. Yeah, final. We get a little further into this stream. I'll tell that story. It is an entertaining story. It involves, by the way, consensual breaking and entering. I had to break into a family friend's house. They knew I was doing it. I was on the phone with them. Skill issue. You're not wrong. Gonna need an autistic wizard after dark stream now. Listen, I will tell. That is a wild story. You know what? I'm 30 minutes in. I should be fine from any kind of major moderation issues. I'll go ahead and tell it now. So I'm house sitting, right? So this was 2012? Summer of 2012, I think. I'm pretty sure it was summer 2012. It was a really hot summer in Oklahoma, right? And we had some family friends that had asked me to keep an eye on their house. So they were going to Texas. The head of the household, the father, he was actually going to be going back to the Middle East. He was in, I want to say, the Army Reserves. I don't remember. He was in the military. He was being redeployed back to the Middle East for a time, and they asked me to keep an eye on the house because I think they were going to go down and surprise him. The mother was going to take all three sons, go down there and surprise him, and spend some dinner, have time with him, have dinner with him before he gets deployed. And they asked me to keep an eye on the house. Now, this is one of the hottest summers on record for the state of Oklahoma. It is blisteringly hot. Welcome back, Mir. You're about to hear a story about how a window stole my pants. I'm not exaggerating. There is no innuendo here. That is just what's happening. So, you know, I spending a week there, I would go Army National Guard. Thank you, Mother. I would go over to their house, and they asked me to water their plants, feed their animals, and, you know, not water the plants too early in the day when it gets really hot because, you know, they don't want to kill their plants with all that evaporating water. I don't say steam, but, you know. So I would wait until it got a little cooler. Well, it was like one of the hottest days on record, and I waited until like 9 o'clock at night to go because it was just so hot, and I refused to go out there and start sweating to water all their plants. So I get there, and this is like the third or fourth day I'm keeping an eye on the house. And what happens is the first few days I'd go over, I'd unlock the front door, feed the animals while I ran the sprinklers to water their front yard and water their vegetable garden and all of this stuff. So I'm expecting to do the same thing. And I get there and I turn on the sprinkler system, and it's going, and it's like going over all the grass, over all the garden stuff, you know, the usual sprinkler stuff, because that's how sprinklers work. I don't know why I'm saying it like that. I'm really tired. But what happens is I go to turn the key in the lock, and the key doesn't want to move. So I'm like jiggling the key here, and I'm not being quiet, and they're not in a terrible spot in Bethany. It's actually not a bad place to be, but it's not the best place either after dark because you don't know who's out there and yada yada blah blah blah, all that stuff. So like I'm sitting there and I'm not being quiet. I'm being pretty loud. I'm being pretty annoyed. This key doesn't want to turn. I'm cussing at it. I'm on like the only porch that has a light on in the neighborhood, and I'm sitting there and I'm like really freaking frustrated. And eventually it starts to what I think turn. At the time I didn't realize it was warping the key, and then it snapped off in the deadbolt. And I was like, shit. So I'm like, I grab a pair of needle nose pliers that's on the porch. I'm trying to pull the piece of the key out. I end up stripping it to the shape of the lock. So I've made it worse. So, and I've been at this for like 15 minutes. So I go ahead and call them. And the only number I have is the oldest son's. So I call him and I tell him what's up, in which he hands the phone to his mom, and then I explain to her what's happening, and then she hands the phone to the husband, who then I have to explain to him what's happening, and he's like, oh, okay, well, you know, the boys, they tend to leave a window unlocked, so you just go around to the side of the house, you can open up the window to get in. Mind you, there are sprinklers running, so I go around to the side of the house, and this windowsill comes up to my chin. If any of you have seen my full-length videos on my channel, I'm not a small guy. I'm a pretty husky individual. You know, that's the polite way of saying I am fat and eat way too much food, and I'm not going to be able to jump through that window. I'm like, I'm going to need something to give me a boost up. So I go back to the porch. The only thing they have on the porch is terms of like furniture that I can stand on besides one really flimsy-looking table is a rocking chair. If now you might understand where this is going, right? I promise you don't. So I go around with the chair. I'm still on the phone with them, by the way, this entire time, and I'm explaining to them what's going on. I'm narrating it. So I grab the rocking chair and I set it up next to Nina knows pliers on the porch. I don't know if you live in a dicey neighborhood. Leaving tools out on the front door is a choice law. That's fair. I don't know why it was there. Aren't huskies like really athletic? No, that's the dog. They're athletic. Husky is it's a polite term of saying someone's fat. I say polite term. Yeah, I'll just deal with that. Yeah, it's another way of saying someone's fat. I may not be using the term entirely correctly in that point, in which case that's my bad. I've always used it that way though. The dog though, the dogs are very athletic. Believe me, I have a half husky. He's very athletic when he wants to be. So I take this rocking chair over to the window and I set it up, and I'm having to like balance on it like it's a skateboard, but I'm like Captain Morganing, so I have like 1 foot on the back, 1 foot on the edge of the actual seat of the chair, and I'm like rocking back and forth as I'm trying to get steady enough to go through the window, right? And I've opened it up to where I can go through. So I attempt to jump through the window. I fall through the opening in the window, and I slam my shoulder on the bunk bed just inside the window. Something scrapes my side, and I have like a small cut where like the skin has been ripped, and it hurt real bad. And I hit my head on the dresser coming in. Like, it was not a graceful landing. Surprise, surprise. So I finally like get up. I'm still on the phone with them, and I'm like, it hurts. And I was like, wow, it's really cold in here. And I look down, and I'm not wearing any pants. I'm like, where are my pants? I look out the window. My jeans are in the grass being soaked by the sprinkler as it goes back and forth over the jeans. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I got to feed these animals. I'm like, I got to hurry up. And they've got like a glass front door. And that's not one of those like just a glass screen door. It's got like decorative glass, so you can't like see all the way into the house. But I'm running around, like, I got to move quick. So I'm trying to feed these cats and these dogs, and I'm like, I'm sure so one of the neighbors heard me messing with the porch, trying to get the door open, and probably doesn't even know I'm taking care of the house. Probably like, there's some random dude trying to break into Liz and Ozzy's house. And I'm like, oh, well, I got to hurry, because I have this image in my head, because I'm running around, I'm feeding the cat and feeding the dog, no pants on. I have this image in my head of this cop coming up, knocking on the glass door, and seeing me standing there, cat food in one hand, dog food in the other, no pants on, going, I can explain, officer. So, of course, that didn't happen. I feed the animals. I run outside. Mind you, I'm still not wearing pants. I run outside, grab my blue jeans. I lock the doorknob so no one can get in the house after I shut the door behind me. I jump into my car and don't even put my pants on yet. And I speed down the way until I get back to my house, which is like 4 or 5 minutes down the road. And I quickly throw my soaking wet blue jeans on so I can go into the house and change real quick, so I'm not like walking up to the house in my underwear and a t-shirt having to explain to my parents what just happened. Nothing bad happened of it. It's become a really funny story. I tell it quite frequently, but I did attempt to go through a window and it stole my pants. Turns out there was a nail, by the way, just on the inside of that window that had caught one of my belt loops of my blue jeans. And instead of ripping the belt loop off, which has happened to every other pair of jeans I've ever had, it just took my pants with me. So I don't know how that happened. I wasn't wearing shoes, which is a thing. My wife calls me a hobbit. So, that might have been a major contributing factor as to why my pants ended up in the grass. But, oops, lesson learned. It's the only ever time I've broken and entered into a person's house, by the way, with their consent. Like, they gave me the instructions to do it. So it's not like I, did it without their expressed permission. But I did do a break in a B&E, and I did feed their animals. And, like, I swear to God, I could just imagine that 911 phone call. Be like, 911, what is your emergency? Yeah, there's a weird fat white guy at my neighbor's house who's not wearing any pants and he's just feeding their animals. What kind of sick weirdo? Shoes are overrated. Am I also a hobbit? Yes, and it's okay, Stolas. It's okay. At least those jeans were well made. Yes, Levi's, I believe. Levi's, and they held up. God bless those jeans. Now I have jeans that fall apart if I look at them funny, which is kind of entertaining, but also annoying as hell. I always end up with a broken belt loop in the exact same spot. I don't know what I'm running into that's causing my belt loop to be broken, but I do lose belt loops pretty frequently on my blue jeans. Also, they may have been a little oversized. I'm barefoot any chance I have to. You know what? Thank you, Mary. You know what? Look at that, Ma. Look at that, honey. All right, there are people who are agreeing with me. I have Levi's denim jacket. I have a denim jacket somewhere. My dad gave it to me, actually. It's an old acid-washed one. People in high school used to make fun of me for it because they said it looks like okra. I'm like, I don't know what on earth you think looks like okra. I have never seen okra this color, so I don't want to go anywhere you're eating. Clearly, that's nuclear irradiated food. The 90s 2000 denim was made from shark skin, I swear. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. The denim nowadays is definitely cheaper denim, for sure. This shim is in the worst spot. I'm having a hard time getting it. My dad gave me mine. Yeah, same. Same. My dad gave me his denim jacket. I have it somewhere, I'm sure. I haven't seen it in a while, but I have it somewhere. He wore highly acid-washed denim in the 80s. Which tells me more about him and his style than anything else. There we go. Because you pull your pants up by the belt loop. That's not entirely true. I feel called out by my mother. It's very true. I've shifted from doing the belt loops though. I've stopped doing the belt loop thing. So maybe that's why I don't have any broken belt loops right now. 80s fashion is timeless. I also have a leather jacket my dad gave me. Oh, that's sick. That's sick. I never had a leather jacket. I don't know that I'd ever be able to take care of a leather jacket properly, but that is pretty awesome. I ain't gonna lie to you. And 80s stuff is just awesome. My wife, we were dating at the time when I learned this, doesn't like 80s music, and it hurts my feelings. As a kid, I was always barefoot once it was 20°, and which also means I ran over asphalt barefoot in midsummer. Ooh. I have found my people. I could no longer be made fun of, sweetheart. You can't make fun of me or roll your eyes. Now I have a community of people who prefer to go barefoot. In the immortal words of the great scholar Michael Scott, suck it. And had one of those asphalt gravel stones under my big toenail once and had to... Ooh, and had to get through half the village. Golly, jeez. My feet are strong. Yes, unironically. You know what's funny? This is one of those things that my mother will roll her eyes and go, of course he would know something like this. One of the largest contributors for the reason bad foot health is a very common thing in the West right now. Also, 80s music is fun. You're darn right. You're darn right. How do you not like 80s music? One of the biggest contributing factors to bad foot health in the West is actually soled shoes. Because during medieval times, they didn't have thick soles on their shoes. What they instead, they basically wore essentially like a leather sock for the most part, if it was a good cobbled shoe. Maybe a little bit of a sole, but not much, not as thick as we have now. Believe it or not, though, medieval people, because of this, they would actually walk toe to heel instead of heel to toe. As it turns out, when we got thick-soled shoes, humans started walking heel to toe instead of toe to heel. The reason for this is because humans are inherently creatures of efficiency, which you wouldn't think is true, but it is. I can't really dislike any music. It means something to someone even if I don't like it. Yeah, exactly. Except electric polka death music. I'm good on that. That is a real genre, by the way. I want to try out barefoot shoes this summer, mainly because I can't stand thick soles and a higher heel. If I want my heel off the ground, I'm a tippy toe. You see, I have some barefoot shoes, and they are really nice. My wife, they're not the ones that have the toes in them, though. My wife said she would not remain married to me if I had toed shoes. So, but yeah, there are some really nice barefoot shoes. That's what I actually wear most of the time out of the house, is barefoot shoes. But yeah, it turns out, like, so humans are inherently creatures of efficiency when it comes to, like, biological function, right? Again, not something that you would normally associate with humanity, but it's true. And walking heel to toe is actually much more energy efficient than working toe to heel. The problem is, one, the human body is not meant to absorb impacts from the heel. They're actually meant to absorb impacts from the ball of the foot, right? Also, toe boxes and shoes are not adequately designed in the West. They actually curl on both sides, which kind of force your toes together, so you get that weird thing where your big toe kind of points inward more than the rest of your other toes, and so you're not supposed to have this big pronounced, I think they call those corns, in the foot. Instead, your toe box should actually spread a little bit. And if you watch children when they first learn to walk, they walk toe to heel, not heel to toe. And once they start, let's see, the standard toe box or the barefoot one. Well, I mean, like, the toe shoes, there are barefoot shoes that have, like, toe slots for you. I have standard ones that look more like actual shoes, but they are barefoot shoes. But yeah, when babies first learn to walk, they walk toe to heel, not heel to toe. And when they wear shoes for the first time, they have to relearn how to walk, which is why they stumble real bad when they wear shoes, because they're walking heel to toe, not toe to heel. So, and they have to relearn how to walk that way. But believe it or not, humans are designed to walk toe to heel. And so you watch a lot of, like, those old medieval manuscript paintings and artwork that they do. When they show people sword fighting, for example, they always show them landing on their toes and not on their heels, which people think look like, oh, it's supposed to be an artistic interpretation of a dance. Yes, kind of. I mean, ballet ultimately has its roots in sword fighting, believe it or not. But in reality, that's how they walked back then. They walked toe to heel, not heel to toe. So I wear barefoot shoes when I'm out of the house, when I decide to wear shoes, that is. And I actually practiced for years on working toe to heel, not heel to toe. And what's funny about that is you can tell the difference if you look at my feet or you look at my wife's feet, because oftentimes my toes are much more splayed out, which is hilarious. I feel like I'm like a foot fetishist's, like, wet dream right now talking about this, but Hokas are made with the wider toe box. Nice. I did not know that, actually. What's funny about this, although, is you can actually tell the difference between knights who did not have to do a lot of walking versus knights that had to do a lot of walking. So, for example, full plate armor, oftentimes, if you were a knight that rode on a horse, you would have that more narrow toe box because most of your time was not spent. I ruined my feet being on point for 12 years. That's fair, Ma. Oftentimes, though, like, if you're on horseback, you're not marching. You're not marching on the road, so you're going to be riding your horse. And the irony about this is you had to have a more narrow toe box because of stirrups in the saddle. But knights who marched, your WikiFeet score is soaring right now. That's fair. That's fair. The fact that I know what that is, golly, jeez, Stolas, I didn't consider you a degenerate. I don't know if you've gone up or down in my book, but your points have shifted somehow. Anyway, so, like, you know, a lot of the knights who would walk on the trail, their armor would look almost like they had duck feet. Because they had wider armor plating to go over the top of the shoe, and it literally looked like a duck's foot when they walked, which is hilarious. And the reason why a lot of shoes have a narrower toe box now is because they're designed to emulate the style of those who had a horse, because those who had a horse were higher status. Because they were higher status, they were something to emulate, and they became classy and refined, whereas those who had to walk were considered, you know, like peasantry or beneath in a lesser station of some kind. And so that's why we do what we do now with shoes. You've now learned something you didn't want to know. Congratulations. I have given you information against your will. From Wizard saying degenerate, is that's a rating site for foot fetishists? Unfortunately. And I know that because I've been online too long. I don't go to the website, but I can't say anything to defend myself that won't make me look even more guilty than I already am. No, I don't want to do that. That's too much. I just smacked a bug on my keyboard. Ooh. Well, hopefully you have some paper towels and some cleaner nearby. I am not a bug person. I am actually, like, I have an irrational fear of bugs and arachnids. I am an insecna and arachnophobe. This is going to be an awkward one to try to cut. I don't know what the best angle for this is without cutting into the rest of the piece, which I need to be very careful about. Well, let's see here. Yeah, what else can we talk about that might be vaguely interesting? I've been near Chronically Online since I'm 14, and I'm now friends with enough monster fuckers to not really be noticing certain things. I have a tendency to go down weird internet rabbit holes, lol cows, cave stories, paranormal, woo, whatever. You know, one of the best things that I love listening to, I've tried getting my wife into it, she won't do it, is the Y-Files on YouTube. I don't know if anyone's ever listened to the Y-Files. Fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff. I go down the conspiracy rabbit hole, which, I hate to say it, like, sometimes I just do it because I think it's fun. I think conspiracies are fun for the most part. Some of them are a little believable, unfortunately. Like, you have any idea how weird it is to say, like, oh yeah, I don't believe the moon is real? And have, like, evidence to suggest as to why, and people look at you like you're crazy. I'm like, no, there's a lot of inconsistencies with the moon, man. You gotta address this, and this. And they're like, I look up in the sky and I see the moon, ergo it's real. I'm like, oh, well, that's not what I'm saying when I say the moon's not real. Did you know that there's a university you can study botanical architecture in Germany? Really? Botanical architecture? You have piqued my interest, and purely because I have no idea. I go down rabbit holes of, like, learning stuff for the sake of learning stuff. I had a teacher in high school call me a walking book of useless information. She was also very fond of encyclopedias, so I called myself an encyclopedia. Fun fact, working on a podcast with my buddy Josh over at Sprue to Saga. Again, if you haven't subscribed, you really should. Great channel. He's working on a new video coming out. It will be awesome. Our podcast that we are working on, where we will talk about Age of Sigmar lore, is called Encyclopedia Autistica. So, prepare thyselves, ladies and gentlemen. I've been meaning to post of the 4 Tech Marines at Kit Bash, but I keep forgetting. You should absolutely do that, Alec. I'd love to see them. Conspiracies are fun. The people who make their whole lives about conspiracies are less fun. Yes. Yes. Although I am unironically convinced of a few conspiracy theories. I believe in the ancient apocalypse, and I believe in Graham Hancock's theory of what happened during the Younger Dryas with fingerprints of the gods. I don't know if it's true necessarily, but there's a lot of questions. And what's wrong with asking questions? Yes, it's pretty much trying to figure out how to build things out of plants. Really? I feel like there's a joke in there somewhere. I feel like I could find something funny with that. But that takes entirely too much mental energy right now, and I am too tired to give that much of a thought to it. But that sounds hilarious. So, here's a good question. You know what? That's a good question for chat. Is Atlantis real? Did it exist? I'm not saying necessarily like the legends, magical, super advanced technology, even compared to us today, but like just in general, like the idea of an advanced, ancient civilization that was lost to the sea a long time ago. Do you think Atlantis was real? I have painted them differently from most of my army. That's fascinating. I wonder how you did that. You know, most people paint their tech marines mostly red. And then, you know what? Codex compliant is fun. I'm not a codex compliant kind of guy, personally. Like, codex adjacent? Maybe. So what'd you do with them? I gotta know. Oh, yeah, one thing they're really trying to figure out is how to make trees load-bearing parts of houses, mainly as part of carbon sequestering and control of the microclimate. Oh, okay, that's fascinating. Atlantis could have been real. A lot of ancient societies were smarter than we give them credit for. Yes, I agree with you. I believe Atlantis existed. I stand by this. Odds are better that there's many that civilizations lost to time that we don't know about. If one of them was named Atlantis, I wouldn't be surprised. Sad rowboat noises. Welcome back, Final. Skylar Productions. I mean, Atlantis could be real, but not like super advanced society. Probably like Troy and Turkey. You know, funnily enough, so I don't know if is anyone here at all familiar with Graham Hancock and the ancient apocalypse theory at all? Since we're on the topic of conspiracy theories, this is now going to be the new main topic here. There's a thing called Doggerland in Europe that doesn't exist anymore. I think because it sunk into the ocean. Fascinating. If we're gonna get into this, I'd love to know what people know about Graham Hancock. If anyone has any idea what the ancient apocalypse theory, because I can get into it, but there's a lot of groundwork I gotta get into. Miri says no. Fair enough. Oh, yeah, in about 30 minutes, I'm going to have to feed kittens, and I will probably do that on stream. So. Unaware of it? Okay. So, Graham Hancock, right? Graham Hancock's theory of ancient apocalypse. So, one of the major like supports for his theory is that there's a lot of like connective parts of cultures that kind of like oddly enough crop up pretty much everywhere, right? There's a lot of esoteric stuff I can't get into, like because I don't remember all of the information, but like you can look up things like the megalithic yard, right? For example, inserts teeny squeak kittens. I stop with conspiracy theories after the files. That's fair. That's fair. But there's a lot of like weird pieces of cultural interconnectivity that exist within societies that shouldn't be there, right? Great example of this is the Great Flood myth. Every single society on Earth has a Great Flood myth. Like weirdly enough, it every single society. Some stories are. It depends on like where they're from or like, you know, what the roots are. Some say like the ancient Sumerians who said like the world was flooded when a frog drank as much of the water as it possibly could and then released it all at once because it couldn't hold it in. But every single major culture has a great flood myth. Fun fact, the Mexicans, the original name for the Aztecs before a bunch of historical dudes were like, we're tired of calling them Mexicans because it sounds too much like Mexicans. We're going to call them Aztecs now. The Mexicans, they had a belief that the world was flooded, and the Incans and the Mayans had a belief that the world was flooded, and that a man who was known as Quetzalcoatl showed up on a boat pulled by sea serpents or dragons, I believe. Great flood myth isn't that strange. Large-scale flood would have been impactful to ancient societies. Yes, but the question is, all those stories have endured, which kind of indicates that there's some sort of interconnective heritage that comes from that. they obviously people are like, oh, it must have been an isolated flood and that's why. But like you have like people in North America that talk about the Great Flood, right? Like there are tribes in North America that talk about the Great Flood. As I was talking about with the Mexicans, they talk about Quetzalcoatl, a white man with a beard, or they say a man of pale skin. I don't want to say white because there's a lot of accusations of racism on Graham Hancock's part that I don't necessarily agree. I don't think Graham Hancock is racist. I think he's just reporting the stories. But they say a man with pale skin showed up with a beard who was pulled on a boat dragged by sea serpents, and his name was Quetzalcoatl. And he showed up and taught them how to build like great buildings and agriculture and all of the and mathematics, and this is for the Incans and the Mayans, right? Which were later these same cultural beliefs were adopted by the Aztecs, and so it goes back a ways. And he taught them how to rebuild society, which is interesting. And he also said that he brought giants with them, and they built great works of like great pyramids in South America. And then you have like the Celtic Tehetadwanan. I believe that's correct. I am not Celtic. I don't speak or Gaelic. I don't speak Irish Gaelic at all, so I'm not going to pronounce that correctly. But the Tehetadwanan, which I believe translates to bag carriers, were men from Ireland who, or the earliest settlers of Ireland, who went south and were enslaved, and then they learned from their slave masters, and then they left, like they fled or they were released or whatever have you, went back to Ireland, and they brought with them sacks of dirt and taught the people there how to use like agriculture and how to grow, animal husbandry, how to build. Which also interesting fact, there is references in, like, I think it's Pillar 43 in Enclosure D that has men who are carrying bags full of dirt that pops up in Iran, Iraq, Turkey, and even in South America, right, where they have, like, I forget the name of it, but there's like that special artificial soil that they said that Quetzalcoatl brought with him in a bag, and they use that to grow, and it's actually like really, really fertile artificial soil that helps them grow crops in the rainforest, because the dirt down there doesn't have a lot of nutrients in it because nothing dies long enough to decay into the dirt, and it is artificial. There's like ceramic in it, so it's clearly like intentional. So like all of these things kind of pop up, which kind of indicate that the flood myth is more than just myth, and like these people had all this knowledge that they passed on to other societies around them and helped them rebuild and restructure. And there's like always these people who helped rebuild. Noah in the Ark, for example, in the classic Judeo-Christian, the Abrahamic faiths, even Islamic faith, he rebuilt society after the Great Flood for him. You have Quetzalcoatl for South America. There's another one in China. I forget that god's name. So it kind of pops up all over the place, which is already kind of like fairly fascinating. Fun fact, they believe that this all dates back to like 14,000 BC, which is like right smack dab in the middle of the ending of the Ice Age, which is a period known as the Younger Dryas period. Now, this is when the world was warming up a little bit, but it was still very much in the Ice Age at the time. And what makes this fascinating is in that period, there was a massive global warming and a massive global cooling. It was a rapid one because it melted a large amount of the glaciers and the ice caps at the time because the temperature just spiked, which they believe raised the sea levels dramatically, which would have altered coastlines. And then after whatever event caused this to happen, the planet began to cool again and refreeze, which lowered the water levels quite a bit, but the coastlines would have been permanently changed by the initial rising during that time period of the Younger Dryas. Now, why this happened, nobody knows. Nobody says that human civilization was any kind of advanced in this time period because it would have been too long ago. Contemporaries say... Wizard, can I send you something in Discord? Absolutely, please. Contemporaries say that human civilization, they would not have been to the point where there's any kind of advanced nature of construction or metalworking until way later, because they indicate that human civilization most likely started at about 12,000 years ago with the building of Göbekli Tepe. if I'm going too fast, anyone please just let me know. But that's kind of like the contemporary beginning of human civilization to a lot of people now. But this predates that by about 2,000 or 3,000 years, which is really fascinating. There's a lot of theories as to why this warming period happened in the Younger Dryas period. Some say it was a meteor impact, but we've not seen any evidence of a meteor impact. We would have seen a crater if it was. Some people, like Randall Carlson, believes it was an airburst impact, meaning the asteroid would have exploded in atmosphere before it hit the ground. Great example of this would have been the Tunguska incident, where a meteor did commit an airburst, and we would not have known about it because there wasn't massive amounts of devastation as it would be if it was a normal impact, except it was observed when it happened in the early 1900s. So the theory is that it could have been that, or some people think it could have been what's called a Kensington event. Basically, as the Earth, there's a lot of solar flares, and the Earth will occasionally pass through a massive solar flare. The last time that we know that this happened was in the 1800s, when apparently some places report seeing the aurora borealis as far south as southern Texas in the United States of America, which is big. As well as some places in the north said that dawn was occurring at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning because of all of the sheer amount of energy that's being released by this sunburst that the Earth was flying through. They could see like telegraph lines and telegraph poles were just, or telegram poles were just going absolutely haywire. You could see electrical arcings happening with the naked eye, just randomly firing. Machines that were powered by electricity were just absolutely going crazy during this time period. I don't remember how long it lasted, but it became known as a Kensington event, named after the person who discovered the solar flare being shot out by the sun at the time. They think it could have been a Kensington event. There would have been enough energy that it would have rapidly heated up the planet as it passed through this massive solar flare. Airburst or sea impact. Sea impact would make sense in conjunction with the massive flood. It would, but also the rapid melting of the glaciers and the polar ice caps would also account for the same thing. It could have been both, for all we know. It could have been one airburst and then a chunk flew into the ocean. It's really just kind of hard to tell with these kind of things, and there's hardly any evidence of an airburst if there were, and if it's a deep sea impact, we have to find the crater somewhere. So, a lot of people obviously offhanded in the archaeological community just dismiss Graham Hancock's theory. But the problem is that it's because it doesn't have any strong evidence to support it. But the problem is any evidence that would have been around to support it would long have been destroyed, right? Because they say that evidence of human civilization after 10,000 years would be pretty much gone, right? There would be no evidence of human civilization if 10,000 years passed without mankind to help fight back against nature. So there is a theoretical cap to how far back we can go to even take a snapshot of human civilization, and that would be 10,000 years. Which means if there was any human civilization that existed 14,000 years ago, which is when the Younger Dryas period kind of had that rapid warming, we wouldn't really know much about it. There'd only be super trace evidence, which could be explained away as circumstantial at best, or some unexplained natural phenomenon that has some other explanation to it. Again, I'm not a scientist. I think these are fun to think about, but I have kind of been low-key convinced that Graham Hancock's theory of the fingerprints of the gods and the ancient apocalypse theory, I kind of believe that they existed. I kind of believe that it happened. The theory goes that survivors from whatever civilization this would have been, which would have been the beginning of human civilization as we know it, beginnings of possible metalworking, definitely the beginnings of agriculture and farming, animal husbandry, more advanced construction and specialization. So not just hunter-gatherers or nomadic tribes would have begun in this time period, and most likely during this massive flood coming in from the melting of the ice caps, or if it was a sea impact that occurred, these survivors went out and found other human civilization and then taught them how to rebuild society that they had found, right, from their own time in their societies, which makes some modicum of sense. So if there is an Atlantis, then it would have to be, buried under the ocean, or all evidence at this point, because it would have been so ancient, would have been destroyed. Fun fact, though, in the actual legend of Atlantis, Atlantis was never sank into the ocean. They never said that it actually sank into the ocean. What they said was floods destroyed Atlantis, but they indicate in the actual legends of Atlantis, which you can actually find some translations of, which do have a little bit of fantastical nature to them, I will admit, let's be honest. You know, if this happened thousands of years ago, obviously some things would have changed. Flood waters destroyed Atlantis, but because all the access ways were now flooded and muddied, and it was hard to get through, and that trade with Atlantis would have fallen apart, and a large city, which is what Atlantis was supposed to have been, would not have been able to support itself during massive floods that would have destroyed the land around them. They would not have been able to grow enough food. Ergo, Atlantis would have been destroyed by floods, but not necessarily sunk into the ocean. Which is what the actual legend says. It says it was destroyed by floods, but not that it sank into the ocean, but that the area around it was ravaged by floods, and that their waterways had become so muddied and thick that ships could not get through. So, fun fact. They also believe that it would have been in Africa, in an area that has signs of serious flood damage from thousands of years ago. It's called the Eye of Africa, if I remember correctly. And another fun fact that I find rather fascinating is that the ancient Egyptians claimed that they did not build the pyramids. They claimed that they found the pyramids. They were called the Kemet, the people of Kemet at the time, not Egyptians, but they claimed that they found the pyramids when they were interrogated. I say interrogated like they were captured and whatnot and tortured or anything. But yeah, they claim that they found them and that they inherited them, but not that they had built them. Which is rather interesting, which makes it even weirder that it'd be the case if they did build them. We don't know how they built them, because the construction of them was not necessarily that long ago from human archaeological records. We know how the serpent mounds were built and all. Yo, Wizard, how you doing? I'm great. I am exhausted, but I am great. I am really, really good. I actually, very, very soon, I have to get ready on prepping kittens, so I'm going to bring all this stuff in here, and I will be feeding kittens in here on stream, because at least I can show you guys what I'm doing, and make content. That way I'm not gone for like 20 minutes with my camera rolling on an empty desk. But I'm going to do a couple more pieces before I go grab them real fast. We're also talking about conspiracy theories, so... the ancient Egyptians also had archaeologists looking at ancient Egypt. Yes, exactly. And that's the thing. They claim that they found the pyramids and whatnot. Not that they... Sharkness is attacking a table again in the living room and just knocked it over, if anyone heard that loud crash. This is getting, like... Yeah, we're going through these smaller pieces. This is nice. I'm like almost done already. I've only got like a few of the hoses left, a few of the articulating arms left, and then the last of the big stuff, which I have to cut on the Dremel, and I won't be able to use the Fantic for that, unfortunately. I have to actually use the Dremel. I might be able to use the saw, though. That might work. So, yeah. But yeah, like one of the fun things, though, is like there were people that claimed that the Sphinx would have been about 15,000 years old. And archaeologists at the time in the early 1900s scoffed at the idea. And the only evidence that they had against it was that there was no construction on record that was anywhere near that old. It was 14,000 years ago, sorry. There's no construction on Earth anywhere near that old. So that's the only evidence against the Sphinx being that old. And then, fast forward a couple decades, guess what they found? Göbekli Tepe, which is a large, I almost hesitate to say temple, but like a large construction that dates back over 12,000 years ago, which is older than even the projections for the pyramids that were done at the time. So now we have evidence to suggest, because we have found other constructions that old, that the Sphinx may be that old. And that The only other evidence that a lot of archaeologists point to now is that, well, it can't be that old because the construction around the face is much newer. Except we know that the ancient Egyptians were taking care of the Sphinx and they had built the face on it much sooner than the rest of the body. So it's entirely possible that the Sphinx is about 12 to 14,000 years old, which does predate the Egyptian civilization as far as we know. And then you have the Book of Kings, which is not the biblical book, but there was a book record that the ancient Egyptians had. They claimed was the true lineage of the kings of Egypt, that they say goes back almost 30,000 years, except a lot of historians were like, oh, well, clearly that's fake. And then all of a sudden, at the time, when they get to the time period where the actual kings that they can verify took over, they're like, okay, well, now this is made up, and now this is where the true history begins. And they just kind of arbitrarily decide that fact. But the ancient Egyptians, the Kamati, they believed that the Book of Kings is 100% accurate, and it goes back over 30,000 years. Wonder what that's all about. Just saying. Pretty convenient. I also have done a Demon Prince kit bash from an Abaddon. That's awesome. That would be a really long time. Exactly. And the thing is, like, all of Graham Hancock's theories, on their own, on face value, they're a little absurd. Even I can agree, on face value, they're a little absurd. There's not a lot of supporting evidence. But that's not what Graham Hancock's expressed, intention or motivation was. He wasn't trying to prove that these were true, but that there were holes in the logic of modern archaeology, or now as we will refer to the big archaeology, is that there's a lot of holes in what they claim is the truth, and that there needs to be some sort of verification and at least look into some of the claims that Graham Hancock is making, but they won't do that. Instead, they just claim that he's racist and that he's wrong because there's clearly no evidence for this, and so we're not going to look into it, which is strange. I mean, you would think as a scientist, you would have some evidence that might suggest your theory is wrong. You'd at least look into the claims and try to prove or disprove that evidence, but they don't do that. Instead, they just claim that he's being racist because he said that Quetzalcoatl, in the legends that he was told by the people who were descendants of those same Mayans and Incans, that he had pale skin. And they just go, well, you're just trying to say a white guy taught all of these people how to build these wonderful things, and that their culture didn't do it themselves. And he's like, no, I'm saying they told me that, not that I'm reporting that and making that reality. But that's kind of just the nature of scientists, unfortunately, is that you work for a long time on a singular project or a singular idea that you cannot be proven wrong. If you are proven wrong, your entire life would have been a waste, right? You've just wasted your life on something that is inherently false. Ergo, your life is wasted, and they won't do that. So instead of it being what science advances, not one scientist at a time, but one death at a time, is really what is one of the old sayings that they say. I'm paraphrasing that, of course. I'm not sure his theory is falsifiable just because of the time span, but it is very interesting to think about. Exactly. And if you're raising the question, that's what's important. We have to, and that's all they're doing is like he's just raising the question. That's all he's trying to do is basically like, hey, there's a couple of holes here. We can look into this, and he's coming up with an explanation as to how those holes could be filled on his own. There's not many ways to answer those holes, unfortunately, but it's at least worth looking into. Whether you like the guy or you dislike the guy. Personally, I think he's a little bit of a I don't want to say kook. He's a very smart guy. A little bit of a hippie. I'll go with hippie. It's probably the way to go about it, Trying to come up with a unified theory of humanity is very much that kind of counterculture era kind of thing. But, ultimately, I think his motivations are good. He sees a hole in science, and he wants to come up with an explanation for that hole. Whether or not you agree with his explanation is one thing, but we can all agree that there is a hole in the knowledge of science, and there's a lot of pushback on trying to even look into any of his claims. So, unfortunately, people just get a little territorial, and it happens. Hey, Wizard, did you know that there are actually pyramids in Antarctica? I have heard of this, the Black Pyramids of Antarctica. I don't know how much I believe that conspiracy theory, but it is interesting, and it does raise questions. The areas that those pyramids are located in were years after the claims of the pyramids were classified and considered no-go zones. And to this day, governments will not pay for expeditions to go to those areas. I'm very curious as to why that's the case. But, alas, we may never know. We shall see. We shall see. Okay, well, that's not going to come off if I try to clip it. I'm going to break this thing, so I'm just going to have to nip it. Haha. There we go. Cutting some pieces off. All right. It is 2:42 for me. I've got to feed the kittens in about 18 minutes. So I'm going to get them prepped. I will actually bring them in here. So I will have them on screen briefly. And I will get the desk cleared so I may feed them properly. And then I will put them back. So prepare to see relatively newborn kittens, everybody. All right. Stolas, Luke, keep them entertained while I do that. Don't say anything too inappropriate and don't get me canceled. That's all I ask. We'll go ahead and vacuum this. All right, I'll go get the kittens. I'll be right back. I'm a hard change the topic because I like multiple options. Which paints do you guys recommend? Got to figure out which ones I want to get. If you're talking about brands, I would say this. Two Thin Coats by Duncan Rhodes is an absolutely great brand of paints. They're highly pigmented, just like Citadel. I guess now they're Warhammer paints, but just like Citadel paints, they're highly pigmented. They're fantastic. They're designed for minis, and they come in dropper bottles. So they're fantastic. They're great. Oh, yeah, by the way, yes. Greatest accidental Christmas gift I ever got is this little desk vacuum. It is great. It doesn't do a lot of powerful suction, but if you're just doing it with plastic bits or resin bits, this is actually really, really good. The finer stuff has a little bit of a problem, but this is a great buy. And the best part is it is USB-C chargeable. So if you just have a standard phone charger or anything at your desk, you can just plug this in, and you're good to go. So, all right. I will go get kittens. I shall be right back. You guys gotta go outside. Come on. Haha! I'm going to bump my microphone. I'm going to bump it. I'm going to move this out of the way. So, there you go. Here's kittens, everybody. I will be right back. frustrating exercise. Okie dokie. So, alright. The syringe I've been using to try to fill, that we have all been using. Oh, hooray, Blinky. You're pooping again. Hooray. The syringe we've been using to get the milk into the bottles is just broken. The rubber part of the plunger broke off. I'll have to pull it out of the bottle, so I'll get it fixed before anything else happens. But before you get mad, I didn't do it. But I got the bottles filled, so we're fine. We're okay there. Okay, let's go ahead and get this down. I need to be very careful because I'm sure if I pick up the wrong cat and I say the wrong name, my wife will angrily correct me in the chat. Or my mother, one of the two. Okay. They're beautiful, beautiful cats. They're also the reason why I have not had any sleep. Okay. Okay, Blinky, come here. Oh, I know. Come here. You gotta let go of the carrier, buddy. You can't climb out of there if I can't. Hey, you. I know you're climbing out of there. You're an escape artist. Stop it. Stop it, dude. No, you do not. No, I am trying to clean you, you little crapper. I know. They're in a lot of discomfort right now. I'm not gonna lie. This has not been fun. And I can tell they're not feeling very well because they have been in a lot of discomfort. And Blinky needs a bath, and I don't trust myself to give this cat a bath, but he desperately needs one. I've been trying to keep his fur as clean as possible, but it's starting to just not work out in my favor. I know. Here. Sit down for just a second, buddy. Come here. Yes, come here. I know. Here's the not fun part. You know what? You're welcome, honey. All right? I didn't want to stop streaming. So everyone's going to see it happen live on stream. And they can be happy in the same pants they got grossed out in. No, they're not doing very well. They've got some kind of stomach bug. This isn't normally the problem. And they're not bad at all. They're actually really well behaved. The problem is that they got a nasty stomach bug, and this one's claws are sharp. And my dog is now jumping on the window because the dog is hearing the cats and wants to be let into the house. You can barely hear me. Oh, I don't know why. That's weird. Maybe because I'm not right up next to the microphone. My apologies, everybody. I'm doing what I can here. It's okay, buddy. It's okay. You're almost done. I know. There you go. He's got a thing about attacking hands. He loves playing and loves climbing. So, it's okay, buddy. Come here. You go back down. Come here. It's okay, little girl. And this is the Dark Lady Ink Spill, also known as, Why the Ghost of Deafening in My Headphones? What? Your audio was perfect for me, and now I'm going to hang on and to let me lower my volume. I'm really sorry, Luke. That is not what I wanted to do. I just moved the microphone closer to my face. I don't know why. We're now having a whole bunch of stuff going on. This is Blinky here in my hand? Or maybe you were away from the mic. Yeah, I was just a little bit away from the mic. Girly. Ow. That is my skin you were digging into. Come here. You're almost there, girly girl. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Come here, girl. Come here, girl. Come here. No. Go. Stop. Here we go. We're gonna make biscuits. There you go. Someone's really hungry right now. And purring as loud as she possibly can. I don't think it's going to get picked up on the microphone at all. But she is purring really loudly, which is nice. There you go. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the audio. Sorry about that, Luke, and everybody out there. I don't know what's going on. OBS is really messing with my audio, and I don't know why it's happening this way, but it is happening this way. Oh, wow, she is going to town on this bottle. You know what? We have the Dark Lady ink spill, which is the one I'm feeding right now. She is going to be my and my wife's cat, but why can't I just call Blinky the Destroyer of Titans? Sweet girl. We're big hungry and cutting my skin apart. Holy moly. The ears while they're eating. Yeah. Sweet girl. You done? Yeah, you're pretty much done. That's okay. All right, sweetheart. You're going down. All right, you. Come here, monkey. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got you. I got you. Come here. You hungry? There you go, big guy. Blinky has a tendency to grab your hand and pull you towards his face and try to climb inside the bottle while you're feeding him. Goodness, we're actually really hungry. This is good. We've not been able to get him to eat very much. His poor stomach has just been ravaged by whatever's going on. But it looks like that medicine I gave him earlier is maybe starting to help because he is devouring this bottle. There you go, buddy. Oh, wow, look at you. You're almost finished off your bottle. That's really good, buddy. I've been fighting to get him to eat. It took me about 45 minutes at like 4 o'clock this morning to actually get him to eat most of his bottle. Oh, yeah, there we go. Good boy. You're so good. They are super tiny, Mary. They're just so tiny. And active. Oh my gosh, they're almost to the point where they can walk. They still wobble really, really badly while they walk, but they're getting active and it's getting better. So, did they get weighed this morning? They weighed them. The nurse who gave me the kittens this morning, she didn't know, and the vet wasn't in. I'll have to weigh them again. But they had the weight, and they're supposed to get in a contact with me to give me that information. But, ow. His claws are digging into me. Well, this is Blinky, everybody. I'm gonna go put him back down and see if Miss Inky's ready Ready to get stimulated one more time. I promise between the two of them, Inky here is the worst of the two. She doth protest. Everything, it offends her deeply. Do you want me to weigh them now? Okay, all right, I'll weigh them now. Let me make sure that there's nothing left for the kittens, and then I will go weigh them. Sweet girl, you're okay. There you go. I find she really likes support and likes cutting my hand up as much as possible. Girly girl, you're okay. Yes, I told you it was going to stress you out, and it's okay. Guess what? The kittens have survived with me. Inky is definitely the princess, for sure. Oh, you want to attack my finger now? You going to attack my finger? We're just going to climb, aren't you? All right. Looks like that's all I'm going to get out of her for now. Okay, I'll go grab the scale. I'll be right back. Thank you, Final. Appreciate it, brother man. Hoping to continue working on the Porphyrion here. It's okay, sweetheart. I got yous. I got yous. Okay, let's do this. We're going to get these out the way. Yes, can you quit attacking my hand, please? Okay. Inky. 268. Yes, yes. They did polish off their bottles, for sure. Just demolished both of them. There's like trace amounts in each one left. All right, Blinky, come here. I know. You hate this part, buddy. I know you do. Wait, Smole. You're not wrong, Mary. You're not wrong. Come here, buddy. It's okay. There we go, buddy. No. No, okay. We'll try again in a couple minutes. All right, buddy. Here, let go. Let go. 286 for Blinky. So they're getting pretty good. They're getting pretty big. Ugh. Well, I could try her again. That's what it said, but she also has had some pretty massive bowel movements today. So 267, yeah, that's what it says. It's okay, sweet girl. Come here. I'll get you down in there. What time did you feed them after they got back from the vet? Immediately. So that would have been basically 12. I think it's just a little after 12 when we got back because I got stuck at a light for quite a while. So I fed them again here now at 3 o'clock. Just a little before 3. But like I said, the feed them every 2 hours for the next 12 hours. Okay, well, we could do that, I guess. Guess I will see you two back in here in about 2 hours. That's fair. It was massive. Like I cannot stress to you, by the way, when we got the carrier back from the vet, it was covered, and it was from her. Because Blinky was all on the other side and he was perfectly clean, and she was just smothered in it, unfortunately. Okay. Well, you say that, honey. If they polish off their bottles, maybe increase the mils. Yeah, we could do that. It's not a problem. All right, I'm going to go put them back in their carrier on top of the heating pad, so I'll be right back. I say carrier, play pad. Don't correct me in the chat. Okay, let's get this cleaned up real fast. Decreasing time between feeds is always the best way to get them to gain. Overfeeding will just contribute. You're not wrong. Do keep in mind, my darling, we have plans tonight at 5, so we have to be in Edmond. Time to release your Tyrannid warning again. Let's go. 12, actually, not 10. Almost there, everybody. Sorry about that. Holy moly. Okay. All right. Alright, sorry about that, everybody. I am back. Okay. Are they still kidding? I wish I had a clue what that meant. Blinky probably needs to go up in Mills, figure all that out before we bring them to Uzan. Which means they get to play Kate, and my Tyranids are in a need of biomass. I see. I see. Well, listen, you have your Penumbral Reapers to be the biomass for your Nids if you so desire. I've already got that piece pretty much there. Let's go ahead and get these smaller bits. Alright, so after I'm done with these, I have to start warping all the small pieces that have warped in transit and get them back into the shape that they need to be in, and then construction can actually, in earnest, finally begin. I am excited. This thing is going to be awesome. I cannot wait. I am so stoked. And then once this is built, I have to paint it on stream, which is going to take even longer, because I'm probably going to spend every bit of a minimum of 100 hours or so on this one model in particular, which I am excited for. All right. I just want to go ahead and drop. If anybody out here is currently enjoying the content that you're seeing, kittens are probably going to be more of a regular mainstay. But I am working on getting a community set up with our own Discord server. So if you guys are interested, of course, in joining our little community that we are growing, here is a link to the Discord known as the Wizard's Tower, which mostly get in there, post memes, hang out, and talk. We have some projects that I'm working on in the background that I think will be very exciting for our little growing community, including some community homebrew factions that we'll be working on together. But that's something I'm still working on in the background. Nothing been implemented as of yet. But if that sounds interesting to you, please feel free to stop on by. We'd love to have you at the Wizard's Tower. So. Alright. What did I miss? We were talking about conspiracy theories and ancient apocalypses when I left. Although it looks like so we're going to have to come up with a kitten cam for you to use on stream. If we get a kitten cam, we're also going to have to get a puppy cam. Because I've got both of these suckers in here right now laying next to each other, and it is kind of adorable. As long as Han's not being a menace to society, at least, then that's nice. But I'm in. Alright, this piece, that was fast, is already done. Let's go ahead and get the rest of these done out here. So, I don't know if we still have Alec or anybody there, but I was going to ask him about his white scars he's been working on. What about you, Alec? Are you, I say Trico, Wilson Family Jewelry. Alec's still here, obviously. Alec, what you working on as far as your Tyranids? How they coming along? This looks like a sprue gate, so we'll go ahead and just snip it. So a kitten / puppy cam? Abso-freaking-lutely. I can't wait for Inky to be big enough that she can hop in and out of the cat tree whenever she wants, because that'll be really fun and entertaining as she plays with the dog. I would like to second the kitty cam idea. Absolutely. I'm not opposed. What I need to do, first and foremost, is I'm going to have to spend a couple hours. I'm going to need the free time to do so. But I'm going to have to spend a couple of hours driving up to Guthrie to visit my good buddy Josh over at Sprue Saga. He has a webcam for me to use. And I want to go up there and get that webcam. That would free me up, because as of right now, I am using my phone as a webcam. And if I could do that, I could set up multiple cameras. I just need to get that one webcam. A fur baby cam is needed. I understand, Miri. I'm in. We could do that. Get some mascots going. Oh, I have a message. I didn't realize I had a message. Who's messaging me? Ah, okay. Ah, that's from Miri. All right, well, I will open that up. Let's open the link. I'm curious. I wanted to see this. Is this the botanical architect? Ah, it is. That's actually really interesting. Huh. That's really cool. Sorry, Miri. I know you were going to send something on Discord. I thought it was going to be posted in the server, so I was looking for it in the server. I didn't realize it was a message. The last thing I did for my Tyranids was a lictor that I showed on Discord. The lictor looks really good. You did a really good job on the lictor. I like the model that you get bashed quite a bit, I have to say. I stole this if he's still here. I was going to mention, I have been trying to look up, and apparently you're not the only person that thinks the Imperial Knights lore is lacking. By the way, I don't know if you're still in here. Bring me a lunch when you do that? Absolutely, babe. Raising Cane's? But yes, Stolas, if you're still in here, I found a lot of people online to also complaining about the lack of good lore for the Imperial Knights. As an Imperial Knight fan myself, I agree with you. But there is some people who are working on like short stories that aren't official authors that are very much done in the same vein as Game of Thrones, which is fascinating. And where you asked about the bit of progress of people, man, figuring out which paint is a pain. Yeah, I get it. It's not easy. Truth be told, do you have a paint scheme in mind? Do you have colors that you think you want for your faction? Let me stress before you post anything else. There is no wrong answer. You can make your models look however you want to look. Okay, I'm a big lore guy. I like to go by lore, right? My buddy Josh, he's not a big lore guy. He wants to do what he thinks is cool. Okay, he once asked me what he would do, like how I would react if he painted Space Wolves, my favorite Space Marine chapter, as anything other than like the colors in game. And I told him this. I said, I don't care what you paint your models. At the end of the day, they are your models. You bought them. You paid money for them. Who am I to tell you how to paint your models? If you wanted to paint your Space Wolves hot pink and lavender, you could do that. Now, would I do that? If you're asking me, is that something I would think looks good? No. But if you want to paint them that way and they're your Space Wolves and you want to do whatever you want to do with your models, you can do that. And there's no such thing as a wrong answer. So you don't have to be worried about ruining your models. And especially, paint is very easily strippable. You can strip paint off a model super easily. So if you make something that you don't like, you can just paint over it again. Pretty standard salamander colors. You know what? I'll do you a favor here. If you're interested in the Too Thin Coats range, and I certainly am, let me do you a favor. I'm gonna look something up for you. So I'm gonna go hands off stream real quick, and I'm gonna look something up for you. Give me 1 second. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna need my mouse though, because I'm not smart. Okay. What is the standard color recipe for Space Marine chapters? Let's get that up here real quick. Okay, let's see here. See. Okay, so the Citadel colors are Caliban green, Null Oil, Warpstone Glow, Moot green. Okay. Now, let's look at the... Okay. If you are interested in building salamanders and you want to build standard salamander colors and you don't want to have to buy Citadel colored paints, because Citadel paints are pretty expensive. AI thumbnails are trashy and brain dead. I appreciate that, but the truth is I can't afford enough to pay an artist to make myself a thumbnail. And so I kind of just generated something because I didn't just want to have a standard stock image of my bedroom. It didn't seem to be conducive, but I appreciate you voicing your opinion, and I don't necessarily disagree with you. But if I had the resources and the funding, I'd just go ahead and hire a professional artist to make me something. But seeing as how I'm not able to do that, AI is the best option for me at the time. But I appreciate you voicing your opinion. If you're interested, like I said, in using Too Thin Coats range instead of buying Citadel paints, which I highly recommend. Too Thin Coats is really good. It's cheaper per paint than Citadel, or I guess now they're calling it Warhammer paint. The green, I'll list them for you here if you want in the chat, or I can just say them here on stream. One of the two, Miri. Hot pink and lavender sounds fun, but not for my future Salamanders army. Exactly. I just threw out two colors I thought were outlandish and kind of hideous, especially together. My wife, however, is a huge fan of hot pink. So anytime I can just trash her favorite color on stream with her listening, I'm about it. So it looks like here, if you want just like the standard green colors, the two thin coats version is wyvern green, emerald green, and ethereal green is what they use. Now that's going to be your base coat, your main layer, and an edge highlight. You don't necessarily have to go that far. You honestly can just do emerald green and wyvern green. For black, they say Doom Death Black or Oblivion Black, which replaces the Abaddon Black. Which again is just, it's like $2. It's like $2 and change in US dollars versus like $5 and change in US dollars. So it's about half the cost. I don't know what the euro conversion is for that. And the red, they recommend doing things like Sanguine Scarlet, which is a replacement for Mephiston Red, and Demon Red, which is a replacement for Evil Sun Scarlet. So those are really good ones. Oh, do list them? Yeah, I can. Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, so Sanguine Scarlet replaces Mephiston Red, and Demon Red replaces Evil Sun Scarlet. Those are for like any reds that you want to put on the model. And then the last is the chapter symbol. They recommend using Dragon Fang or Skeleton Legion. This replaces Xandri Dust or Screaming Skull. And then they have a paint called White Star, which is a replacement for White Scar with a C. So those are the colors that they highly recommend. Man, AF stuff is like licorice. We have the people love it or hate it. Zero middle ground. You're not wrong. There are people who make like arguments from a moral perspective when it comes to AI. You have like half of it. Well, good. So then all you need is the other half, and you're fine. There are people who like argue from like a moral perspective on AI. I don't know. I kind of feel like it's become an ideological battle at that point. I see the argument from a moral perspective, but it just seems to be AI hating no matter what. I'm not necessarily even pro AI. Like I said, if I had the money to pay an artist, believe me, I'd do it. I'd pay an artist to do all of my professional wizard stuff, and it would probably look a lot better. But I don't have that kind of money, nor do I have that kind of time. I'm living paycheck to paycheck with my wife, and I'm just doing the streaming for the love of the game. I'm not trying to make money on it. I'm not even trying to make money on YouTube necessarily. I just think it'd be fun to build a community, and if that's my main goal, then I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. So. Besides, anyone's allowed to come in here and say what they want. Can you send me that on Discord? For sure. I'm literally gonna just copy and paste this. There is a conversion chart. I don't have the conversion chart for Citadel paints to two thin coats, but I'll send you this, which is I have been assured is an exact 1-to-1. So here we go. I'll send it to you right now. There's more than just those colors I named, but if you're just getting started out, you don't need to worry about the super detailed stuff that's in there. But that should help you out quite a bit. If you get those colors, you should be good. It's too late to write down something at a decent speed, and thank you. Yeah, no worries, of course. Look, there shouldn't be any major barriers to this hobby, I think. You know? A lot of it seems intimidating to some people, but as long as you're willing to just put pen to model, pen to plastic, I think you're fine. Or I guess brush to plastic, but there are acrylic pens too. I'm just being pedantic at this point because I'm mixing up my metaphors, which is called a malaphor, by the way. But yeah, it's too easy to make something good in this hobby, and too many people get intimidated by the small stuff. So anything I can do to help somebody out, I'm about it. I mean, truth be told, I don't even think I'm that good of a painter. It's been a long time since I've even painted a model. Most of my model is in shameful gray, so we'll get that figured out. That's funny. Anyway, yeah, if there's anybody out there who's interested in this hobby and they're intimidated by stuff like this, let me just assure you, one, you're not alone. There's a lot of people who are in this hobby that are intimidated by this hobby. But really, honestly, there's really nothing to it but to do it. You're not going to ruin anything, you know? If you're just going to build your models as the instructions tell you to, which I highly encourage people who are starting out to do, then good news. If you paint a model and you don't like it, you're not ruining your model. You can fix that at any point in time. It's not that bad of a thing. You're not gonna screw it up. You're not gonna mess it up to the point where you can't use it anymore. I'm not gonna lie to you. Kit bashes or custom posings. It's risky. It's risky business. Have I heard of the term immortalap? Yes. It's a palindrome. Then when the word is backwards, it makes a completely new word, right? I remember watching that on Vsauce. Watching that. My smallest brush is a 10-0, I think. I think that says it all. You know, honestly, there are people who use makeup sponges to just paint their models, including miniatures, by the way. Not just big models like my knights or anything, like straight up miniatures like Space Marines or even Guardsmen. They use makeup sponges and sponge paint on. You could paint with anything as long as you know like any kind of technique to utilize your brush for that particular purpose. You're fine. There really is no reason to be intimidated by any stretch of the imagination, and you're not underprepared. Like a good craftsman can use any tool, you know. So there's no reason to be intimidated there. You know, all the stuff I do with my models is probably riskier than most people who want to paint a model, and they're more intimidated by the painting than I do. If I can, I'll show you. Like I've shown it before on stream. I'll show them again though, right? I did a lot of custom posing to this knight, right? I did a lot of custom posing to the sword. I did a lot of custom posing to the leg and the toes. This could have easily have ruined this model if I wasn't careful, right? This should be more intimidating than anything else. If I ruin this, it's game over, right? I can't go back and fix this $150 model. The plastic is gone. There's no real recovering from that if it's completely and utterly destroyed. But guess what? It's not. I managed to make it look pretty good, and it's not perfect. You can see the imperfections in it. This is harder to do and can ruin your models more than painting can. I promise you, if you're intimidated by painting, you take a deep breath. You can always remove paint. You can always paint over old paint. It's not going to ruin your model. Doing stuff like this could if you're not taking your time and you're not being careful. But if I can do this, I can paint this model, right? And I'm going to. I'll paint these on stream. I'm going to have to use an airbrush for a lot of this, but I will paint these on stream, minus the airbrush, of course. So, hey, Cats, what's going on? Good to see you, man. How's it going? I wouldn't use my aquarelle brushes for minis. You know what? That's fine. I wouldn't use a paint roller to paint minis, but in theory, right? In theory, you could. And that's the whole point. I do like the fact that the word immortalap is in and of itself an immortalap. Yeah, it's what? It's the reverse of palindrome, right? It's just palindrome backwards. My favorite palindrome of all time is "Go hang a salami, I'm a lasagna hog." But what's funny about that palindrome is it in and of itself could also be an immortalap. "Go hang a salami" as an immortalap would just be "I'm a lasagna hog." But if you say it all together as one sentence, it is a palindrome, in fact. My mom and dad's favorite palindrome is "Taco Cat." So... Ooh, we're not going to do that. I almost cut into the model more than I needed to. I tried dry brushing for the first time, and it came out quite nice. Awesome. See? Dry brushing is awesome. The first painting technique I ever learned was dry brushing. The first model I ever painted in Warhammer was all dry brush, except the trim that I did. which at the time I was convinced looked terrible. I was convinced was awful because it didn't look like the box art. Everyone else around me told me it looked really, really good. Especially I was like, 14 when I painted it. My first ever model ever. I'd never even built the model before that day too. And I'll be honest with you, looking back, yeah, it was pretty good. I still say the most underrated painting style in the hobby, and I say underrated, it's very much appreciated by people, but a lot of people like turn their nose up to it, and I don't know why, is slap chop. A lot of people look down on slap chop, and slap chop is so nice. It's a good speed painting technique that gets you pretty good table ready models. If you're trying to go for like competition painting, I wouldn't do slap chop. But if you're not going for competition painting, then I don't see the problem in it. Like, slap chop is good. The people who turn their noses up at it, I think they're just mad. I think that they think that they had to suffer a certain way, so everyone should have to suffer the same way. I had to paint a model this way, now you have to paint a model the exact same way I did. Blah, 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 blah. I've seen a video on slap chop, and it looks really, really awesome. No idea how it works, though. Well, you'll be happy to know, cats. Not only have I covered this on previous streams, I'll cover it for you here and now. Slap chop is one of the easiest paint methods out there anyone can use to get what is considered table-ready models. And the easiest thing to do is you're going to need basically 3 colors, right? We are our own worst critics. You're not wrong, Alec. Everybody is their own worst critic, and that's how it goes. If you're a perfectionist, especially, I can tend to be a little bit of a perfectionist myself. So, and you get in your way of your own success. But slap chop is super simple. You only need you need more than this, but to get started, you only need 3 colors of paint: black, white, and gray. Okay. You can get away with just black and white if you're good at mixing the black and the white together. But I'd start off with a black, a white, and a gray. Okay? What you're going to do is you're going to prime your mini, and you're going to prime your mini black. And the reason you do that is because you're going to work up from black to white, right, while dry brushing. And that's all you're going to do is dry brush. There's no other secret hidden technique or, to make a Naruto joke. There's no, hidden, painting jutsu that you need to use in order to make I butchered that joke. I had a funny one and then I lost my train of thought. In case I haven't pointed it out enough today in stream, I have not slept very much. I have taken care of kittens. But basically, you're going to prime it black and you're going to work your way up to white. And you're going to use your dry brush. And what you'll do is you'll mix your gray and your black. And you're going to make a mostly black mix, but but with a little gray mixed in. So it's going to be an off black, a lighter black, right? And you're going to dry brush. You're going to dry brush the whole mini. You're not going to cover everything, but you're going to cover about 99 to 95% of the model. Okay? Then you're going to take that same off black, and you're going to mix in more gray. And you're going to make it even a shade or two brighter. And then you're going to dry brush the mini, but this time you're only going to dry brush 90%, right? 90 to 95%. Then you're going to mix in more gray, and you're going to do 80%, 85% of the model. And you're going to keep doing this dry brush and keep decreasing the amount of surface area that you brush until you get all the way up to white. And you're going to keep mixing all of these colors together. And finally, when you get to white, you're going to only be dry brushing maybe 10%, 5% of the model, right? And then you're done. That's it. From there, all you need to do is get whatever color speed paint or I guess it's Army Painter speed paint or Citadel contrast paint or whatever the equivalent of the brand that you have is. You're going to need to get a really good, really thin, highly pigmented paint. I recommend the contrast paints from Citadel. I think the speed paints from Army Painter are good. I think they are also cheaper than Citadel's, but the contrast paints from Citadel, let me be honest with you, I guess Warhammer now, which is, again, a stupid name change. But the Citadel contrast paints are the best. Just straight up, they are the best, in my humble opinion. I stated that like it's a fact. It is in my opinion that they are the best. And then you're going to brush those speed paints, those contrast paints, over your highly gradient black to white. Wizard, I got to go now, but I hope you have a great day in the rest of your stream, and thank you so much for letting us see the kittens. You're welcome, Luke. Glad you got to stop by, man. I hope you have a good rest of your day. So now you got like this black to white, and you've got really good contrast, and you can see the detail on the model really, really well. And now all you're gonna do is you're gonna brush that contrast paint over the top, and that's how you get a really good looking slap chop. Is that contrast paint over a really good gradient. The trick and the secret is that good gradient from black to white, right? There's a slightly more advanced technique for slap chop. There's actually 2 slightly more advanced techniques, but when I say slightly, I do mean slightly. They're not a lot. Yeah, Luke, honestly, man, peace. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I really do mean it. Thank you so much for swinging by and saying hi. Glad you got to hang out for a little while. The advanced technique is instead of doing black to white, you could do black to your undercolor. I'll give you a great example for that. There's like, oranges or... It sounds simple, but not easy to execute. Honestly, Miri, that's just coming from somebody who's not done it before. I promise you. I promise you. My niece could slap chop. And she's like 9. And she's only ever painted 1 mini in her whole life. And she doesn't even remember doing it because she was like 7 or 6 at the time, right? And it looks like a hot mess. Okay? Beautiful colors, though. She picked out some great colors. She could slap chop. It sounds more complicated than it really is. I kid you not. You're just brushing from black to white in a dry brush. If you know how to dry brush, slap chop is the easiest thing. And dry brushing is the easiest thing to learn. It's one of the first painting techniques I ever learned. I promise you could do it. It's so simple. So simple. It's just, I know you've never done it before, so I'm not like trying to come down like harsh on you or calling you dumb or anything, because that's not it at all. It is one of the simplest techniques ever. It just takes some practice, and it just takes doing it. But I promise you, the standard painting method is actually more complicated to do and execute than slap chop is. I promise you. It's so much more difficult to implement than slap chop. It just takes time. It just takes time and practice, and I know you'll get there. If you still don't feel like you want to do that, and you want to do the 3-step paint step method because you feel more comfortable with that, please do that too. Like, don't let some random stranger on the internet, even if you like that random stranger, tell you what to do with your minis. Paint them however you want and whatever style you want, and I promise you'll have a really nice looking model at the end of it. Exactly, Sigmatis. Just practice. That's all there is to it. I promise you. I'll tell you what, I will. I'm not a huge fan of slap chop myself, and that's only because I know the style I want to go for on my minis. But I promise you, I'll slap chop a model on stream one of these days. I'll go borrow some contrast paint from my buddy Josh, and I will slap chop a model on stream just to show how easy and quick it is. In and out, 30 minutes, one guy's painted. And it's so simple, so easy. Slap chop does have a particular look. By the way, there is a very specific look for slap chop. It has kind of like almost like a desaturated look. It's not going to be as vibrant as if you painted a mini completely in the 3-step method. But it's super simple. I promise you. But like I said, if you feel more comfortable with the 3-step method, you do that. Do whatever you feel is comfortable. You need to feel comfortable in how you paint. And you don't need to be worried about second-guessing yourself, or if you just don't understand the technique or something. Do what you have to do. Paint your models the way you want your models painted. Right? Don't let me, some random stranger, like I said, convince you otherwise. Okay? Anyway. It's actually something I'm really looking forward to is those blackout models. I don't want to slap chop those because all of the painting techniques I've seen is people doing that like speed paint slap chop method. And the style I'm thinking about going for is just a little too complicated for slap chop to execute. In theory I could do it, but I think it's gonna be a little too complicated for what I want to do. I'm going for a Martian red, almost like fatigue / camo pattern for my blackout models, and I think that's just a little too much to ask for slap chop. It's a bit of a beginner friendly method, and I just don't know that
it could handle what I want to do. It just might be too much contrast paint in one spot.
I started collecting around 2nd edition, left the 40K, and then GW sunk its claws into me again around 7 and 8. My own worst critic for my paint scheme is M. Me? Yeah. Yeah, I honestly, yes. That's everyone is their own worst critic. You'll never be completely satisfied with whatever you do. I need to finish my Warhammer Fantasy Army Empire. Oh, dude, I want Empire of Man for Old World. Oh, I love the Empire of Man. Like that's the models that got me into Warhammer. I never got to own any because by the time I had a job where I could afford some Warhammer minis, they killed off Fantasy. But I really, really want an Empire of Man army. Blackout models? Yes, Diecats. Blackout. So it is I've talked about it before. I know you're new, so I'll cover it again for you. No worries. Blackout is a veteran-owned and veteran-run strategic, tactical, highly lethal tabletop war game. The studio that makes it's called Enemy Spotted Studios. They are a bunch of veterans who wanted a faster-paced war game for tabletop. That's in the same vein of like Warhammer, but instead of it being massive armies, it's like tactical squads, right? The rules are relatively simple to get into. They're quick-paced games. They're about 30-minute games, whereas Warhammer can be several-hour affair. It's also highly lethal, so models die pretty quickly, and the low model count means that you don't have to have a massive army to even get into it in the first place. I was so pissed when they killed Fantasy Square Bases. Yes, I was pissed when they killed Fantasy Period. I didn't give AOS a single chance until the Old World came out, and I finally softened on it, but I've talked about that before. I love Warhammer Fantasy too much, and now that they brought it back with the Old World, I'm kind of softening on Age of Sigmar a little bit, but a little bit only. Anyway, sorry about that, cats. Yes, so Blackout is created by veterans and a company that's for veterans, and what I love about it so much is that Warhammer Fantasy, damn it, I just read the chat. Blackout, every sale of Blackout, a percentage of your sale goes to help to a charity that they donate the money to themselves. That is to help prevent veteran suicide, which is something that I very strongly support. Right? I know I'm not a veteran myself. I know some veterans in my family, but we've never had to grapple with veteran suicide. But I know veteran suicide is a very prominent issue in the veteran community. There are a lot of people who feel like they can't turn to anybody in the civilian life for assistance because they just don't understand. And this company is doing everything they can to help assist veterans to prevent them from committing suicide and getting them the help that they need. And every purchase that you do on this website for this game, a small percentage of that goes to help prevent veteran suicide. What I love about Blackout, other than the charitable aspect to it, is that it is very cheap to get into. It's $60, so I don't know what that is in not US dollars, unfortunately, so I apologize. But it's $60 US to buy an initial like strike team that they have, and then they have Strike Force expansions for certain factions that are $50. At least right now they're $50. And that's all you need. You only need the $60 to get the initial force, or $50 to get the initial force. The rules are free on their website for anybody to purchase, or even not to purchase, to download and play. And it has a good cause. And that's something that I feel very strongly about. So I purchased some Blackout models already myself, and I will be painting them on stream. I will say they're resin. They're not plastic. So for me, they're coming already pre-built, and that's okay. But I'm going to be painting them on stream, and then I'd love to stream me playing the actual game. I'm currently working on an Australian around 90s based guard army. Ooh, that'd be really cool. I like that. Funnily enough, I have a guard army I want to do after I'm done with my Imperial Knights, which is Imperial Knight themed, funnily enough. I'm going for an angle like it's the household guard for the Imperial Knights that follow them into battle. And
I'm going to be trying to like kit bash that. It's going to be a passion project. I'm not going to be able to get it all done in one go, but I have some ideas. I'm going to take a steam tank and kit bash it with a Lehman Russ, for example. I'm also planning on getting those new cog forts when they come out. I'm going to kit bash it with a Bane Blade and get like a fantasy looking Bane Blade. I have a recipe for building individual guardsmen, which involves the bodies of Tempestus Scions, which involves the heads of the steel helms from Age of Sigmar, and muskets that are based off of the Gravitic rifle from the Skitarii Vanguard set, and the las gun, the las rifle of the Kriegs. So a lot of kit bashing, a lot of building I'm going to have to do, but I think it'll be really interesting. I'm going to have to get you to stop. Give me 1 second, everybody. My phone is going off on an alarm to feed the kittens, so I apologize. Okay. There we go. Sorry about that. I just could not have it going off constantly in my ear. Screw it. It'll be fine. I don't need to plug it back in. What is resin? Resin is a different material, obviously, than the standard ABS plastic. So this is resin, what I'm currently working with. It's very fragile. It's highly detailed, but it is fragile, and it has a tendency to warp occasionally. But some kits just don't come in plastic, as plastic tends to be pretty expensive to make molds for. While I think overall it's a better material, as a much higher initial cost to get into for manufacturing purposes. So a lot of places use resin to get started. But resin can be finicky. It can warp really, really badly, and I'll give you a great example of that in a piece here in just a second. But typically, the skinnier a piece is, the higher tendency it has to warp. And that's a bit of a problem, unfortunately. I'll show you here. So this is I believe this is a las gun. And if you look, you can see how it's bent to one side. It's not supposed to be like this. It's actually supposed to be pretty straight. The problem is these smaller pieces have a tendency to warp as they perfectly set. So they kind of bend off to one side. And that's kind of a pain in the ass. And there's easy ways to fix it if the resin hasn't fully set. Some models, however, are made with like an entirely different type of resin and thus can't be bent back into place under certain circumstances, which is unfortunate. But it is just kind of the nature of the beast when working with a different material than plastic. So usually smaller operations tend to use resin because it's cheaper. Like I said, to make a mold for plastic, it just tends to be insanely expensive, and that's a shame. But if it's simple, if it was easy to do, everyone would do it, and not everybody uses plastic for their models. So, what colors am I going to do my Porphyrion in? So I've kind of talked about this before, Alec. I don't know if you've been present for that conversation. Probably not. I am actually planning on making my colors of my Porphyrion black and yellow with a gunmetal trim. And the reason for that is the colors for my house are black and yellow, and I'm using a gunmetal again as the trim for that. But also, the heraldry is a black stag on a yellow field, and a lot of people make House Baratheon references. The truth of the matter is, for me, when I was in high school, I did a report over like family crests and whatnot, and we had to find our own family crest. Now, of course, my family didn't have an actual family crest, so I had to look it up online, and I came across this shield for the Wild family, and they were 3 black stag heads on a yellow shield with a black chevron. And that color combo and the heraldry of the black stag just really stuck with me. So I decided I was going to use that as my template moving forward. So anytime I do anything fantasy-based and I make my own faction, I always make some variation of my family crest that I found online. So black stag on a yellow field, which is why I'm planning on doing that. So resin versus plastic. Resin is thermoset and is much harder and more brittle, but resin can be made with a lot finer detail. Plastic is much more bendy and forgiving, but cannot have as much fine detail. That is true. A lot of the detail, however, for Citadel, specifically with Warhammer, they've managed to, like, their molds are really, really good because the details are fantastic. But resin typically does hold better detail. That is correct. Thank you, Mother. I appreciate that, Mother Wizard. You said pre-build before. You send minis to someone who builds them for you. I don't personally. So when I said pre-build earlier, you have two options on the website for Blackout. You can buy models that are single piece casted, so they're already built. They're not like assembled, but they come and they cast them in resin as one solid piece. So it's just one model, right? Or you can buy the individual pieces. But it's more expensive to do it that way. A lot of the forces I wanted to get don't even offer the option to be in several individual pieces. They're already just one single piece. So I think they're 3D printed is really what it boils down to. They're 3D printed on a resin printer, and then they send me those minis directly. But I don't pre-build them, but there are people who do, and because there are people who love the models and love the painting but can't stand the building. There are people who love the models and love the building but can't stand the painting, and there are people who just love the models and hate everything else about it. And so I throw no shade towards people who do that themselves. I personally don't do that. I love spending time building and painting the model. Because in my mind, when you build and paint something, a little piece of you is put into that model. You have a much stronger connection to that model when you build it and when you paint it. Because there's an emotional connection that you have with it because you spent time doing something. And I think people do themselves a disservice if they don't build and paint their own models. However, I understand it. Some people just can't stand building or painting or both. So I can't judge people for wanting to cut that part out, if that makes sense. So, well, we are pretty much there, ladies and germs. All I have left, other than these big pieces, are a few of these smaller pieces left that I'm going to go and pull out. And there's the railings themselves. Now, unfortunately for me, one of the railings that I got in the mail when we had it delivered to us, it broke. I think it's this one. The only thing holding this piece together is the shim, which is the thin plastic sheet here. So I'm going to have to super glue it and then cut the shim out separately, which is unfortunate, but alas, not everything can be perfect. So, but I'm going to go ahead and get these last pieces done, and then I have to go ahead and end stream there today because my beautiful bride and I, we have plans. We're going to go have dinner with my grandparents in exchange for my birthday. My birthday was this last weekend. We're going to go have dinner with them for my birthday and spend some time with them. So I will have to, unfortunately, cut the stream short after I get some of these pieces done. Maybe not even all of them. If my wife gets home, I'll have to go ahead and cut things short. But I'd like to get through this if I can. All the wind out of my sails for working on my craft room is just gone. I pulled out my new expensive ink carousel, and it was in pieces. Ooh. Sorry there, mother. I wish Australian forces had more representation in both games, in tabletop and video. I agree with you. I agree. You know what? Funny enough, that my first ever exposure to Australian special forces, because it had a bunch of different special forces in it, was Medal of Honor Warfighter, a highly underrated first-person shooter game with competitive first-person shooting elements in it. They do have some representation in World War I from Battlefield 1, but unfortunately it's nothing modern. But they should have more. What's great about Blackout isn't even set on Earth. It's set in our world, but it's set in 2110 in an alternate timeline where mankind had to abandon Earth. So you have the UN and then you have Mars, basically, as the two major factions. There's a lot of international representation in that game, but nothing specifically Australian, unfortunately, which is a shame. I suppose in theory you could make your own custom force and build and paint your UN forces as Australian, or pretend that some of your Martian forces are Australian, but that's not really quite the same. They do need more representation. I agree with you. We have some British representation, obviously a lot of American representation, but Australia would be nice. And I always thought the Australian campaign in Battlefield 1 was underappreciated and was really, really good. Is your Nana Debbie's birthday? Yes. Well, I didn't know how much of my personal life people needed to know, but yes, you are correct. My grandmother's birthday was also relatively recently, and I, being the terrible grandson that I am, forgot to text her happy birthday. So I'm going to surprise her this evening by buying my grandparents dinner, and then when they protest, I can tell them they can buy me dessert for my birthday. But yes. I need to be a better grandson. All right, so let's get this file down just a little bit. I was going to give my guard forces last tier, but it's being a pain in the law, so I might go with an SLR style. You know what? That's fair. The problem is, there's so many great ideas that are out there for minis that, in reality, just take too much effort, or not too much effort, but it's very time consuming, and you're not going to get the best result if you tried it that way. As long as any representation is not my country 90 years ago, I'm fine with it for any of us. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I still feel like Germany in World War I got a bad rap, but we don't like the sequel very much. Where can you find Blackout miniatures? I'll post the link in the chat. Let me just take you guys with me here real fast. You don't need to be here. So I'll post the link to their direct website. It's literally just called Blackout Game, but Blackout is spelled BLKOUT. Here's the link to their website. It is like I said, it is a very, very nice game. Very quick. People say they cracked the code on how to do it, because a lot of people say oh, well, not only does Warhammer take a long time, in the first 30 minutes whether you won or lost, but people who play Blackout say that it stays a nail biter through and through. Where you're not really sure who's going to win until the last turn is finished, which is really cool. If anyone is interested in war movies, I can't recommend Danger Close, The Battle of Long Tang. Oh, okay. Why is the Salamander's Combat Patrol so hard to find? Good question. I don't know. I'm not a big Salamanders fan, so I have not even looked into it that much, but I wasn't aware that it was that hard to find in the first place. We didn't start the first one. You are correct. You did not start the first one. And I also think Germany got a bad rap with the first game. Excuse me. I'm now letting my tired brain speak video game for me. The First World War. They got blamed for a lot of the chemical warfare stuff. It wasn't their fault. The French started it. The French started the chemical warfare stuff. Now, Germany immediately escalated to an extreme when it came to chemical warfare, but I have to give credit where credit's due. France started it, and we punished Germany. I still think they got a really bad rap after the First World War, personally. And Kaiser Wilhelm was villainized way too much, especially since it all boils down to just a giant family feud. Mary, have you heard of the Rats of Tobruk? I have not even heard of that. What is that? Okay. Now, this one I need to be very careful about. This is a detail piece. Blackout Game gives me big Titanfall vibe. That's actually how I discovered it originally. The dusters in it, the dusters, the mechs in it, they look exactly like the Strider frames of Titans from Titanfall 1, which they kind of changed into specific variants in Titanfall 2, but they look really, really good. Now I have Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire on repeat in my head. Way to go, Miri. Technically, the second one was started by an Australian. You mean Austrian? Yes. Technically, the second one was started by an Austrian. You were not wrong. You were not wrong. What faction do I play? Well, in terms of 40K, I play Imperial Knights. Technically, I have not played 40K in quite some time. It has been well over a decade since I last played. But my army is specifically Imperial Knights. I am setting out on a journey to learn how to play with the Imperial Knights in, I guess, now 11th edition. And my dream is to go to the Las Vegas Open tournament, which was, at the time, the largest Warhammer tournament in the world. Now it has been, unfortunately, replaced by the London GT. But I really, really, really want to go to the LVO. My original dream was to be the first person ever to bring my favorite model of all time, the Acastus Knight Porphyrion, to the Las Vegas Open. My dreams have since been dashed because it was brought in 2025, but I still plan on taking my entire Imperial Knights Army and going to the LVO to try my best and just go on that journey, and that is my dream. We'll see how well I do. As of right now, Imperial Knights are the 25th best army in 40K out of 28. As my dad likes to say, I'm not doing this to power game. I'm doing this for the love of the game. So, the Battle of Long Tang occurred on August 18th to 21st in 1966 during the Vietnam War, where 108 Australians and New Zealand soldiers faced overwhelming force of 1,500 to 2,500 Viet Cong troops. Despite being heavily outnumbered, the Australians managed to hold their position, resulting in significant enemy casualties while suffering 18 to 24 wounded themselves. So you're basically telling me that is a modern-day Agincourt for the Australians. That is awesome. I'm not going to lie to you. That is really cool. I didn't even know that. That's awesome. Wizard's going to butcher everybody. Or get butchered, one of the two. Is it hard to play 40K? I really like Salamander lore, and I think it's my first army to get. Honestly, if you've played any D&D, I don't think 40K is that hard to play. Games do take a long time. They could take, depending on like how fast people are playing it, what level of competition, it could take a couple of hours to several hours to play 40K. But that's really just the love of the game at that point. I wouldn't say it's hard. There's a lot of rule references. So things like, if you want to get into 40K, things you'll need to know. You need to have a book of the current rule set of the edition, right? This is really just what are the rules of the edition and how does the game get played, right? You're also going to need a book. Dude, it's 4 p.m. You have to get to Edmond at 5. I know. My wife just got home. I'm mostly ready to go. I just got to throw my shoes on and clean up the house. I'm about to end it here anyway. You definitely need to get your codex for your specific army, and you definitely need the rule book for the game itself. But after that, it's just getting dice in the models, and it's just learning the rules. And it takes time. You'll be able to reference it as you play, so it's not that big of an issue. So you'll be able to reference the book as you play. I highly recommend just doing casual games at a local game store, which is what's called pickup games. Super easy, and people are usually pretty friendly to people who are just starting out and learning the hobby. So, all right, well, I hate to do this. I do have to go, but I will go ahead and get started here. I'm going to go ahead and post in the chat if anyone is interested in joining the community and you've liked what you've seen so far today. I greatly appreciate a like on the video. If you're interested in joining a community, here's a link to my Discord server called the Wizard's Tower. It's where people who have enjoyed my streams or like to be part of this kind of gaming community. We're really just kind of growing over there, and it's still getting started out, so bear with me. I'm a little bit of a boomer when it comes to Discord, but I'm figuring it out as I go along. If you want to join, feel free. I post updates in there. We have a page to post pictures of your minis if you're getting started, or people will be more than willing to help walk you through the hobby if you're just getting started yourself. I want to say, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. If you liked what you saw, please leave a like on the stream. It really does help the channel out quite a bit. But if you didn't like what you saw, I really appreciate you guys watching this far, and I'll